Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Feed Fest presented by FiOS, obviously by Frontier. My name's Trid. This is Necro. We've got a fantastic couple of games for you today.
We really do. This is going to be an exciting tournament. It's an 8-team invitational where we had 6 teams invited and 2 teams joining them through the qualifiers that happened yesterday. So in this single elimination bracket, there's going to be a lot at stake.
Yeah, we've got a lot to look forward to as we go through the rest of today. But let's take a look at our schedule, Rose, and see what we're going to pull up. We're going to, of course, kick off with a quarterfinal match. That's where me and you are going to have a quick conversation about that one in a minute. Move over to our first semi-final, and then we'll switch over to the real estate agents, ZP and Avast, who will close out the rest of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to be super excited about seeing the rest of the day as well. Our grand finals could be happening at 6 p.m., but remember that this is all best of 5 matches, so you never know how those are going to go. Schedule might be shaken up just a little bit, but that's the tentative schedule for today.
Just like contenders as well, in the instance of draws, it is first to 3 maps as well. So, it could be over after 3 maps, Rose, and we definitely don't want to be seeing that. Let's talk a little bit about the prizing, though. What's on the line for these teams? They've got $5,000 prize pool for this competition, but the 2 teams that qualified through the Open, there was a $1,500 prize pool for them to split as well.
There were, and those 2 teams that qualified through the qualifiers yesterday were Karasuno and Kratos. So Karasuno took home $1,050 for that first place. Kratos took home $300, and the Utah Utes were the runners-up in 3rd place, taking home a prize of $150. But for the invitational today, it's $5,000 up for grabs for the top 3 teams. First place taking home $3,500, second place with $1,000, and third place with $500.
So a lot of money to fill up a plate, find your favorite food to eat, because of course it's a bit of a feed fest going on, and that's what we like to see. But let's take a look at the bracket, Rose. Let's see how things are shaping up as we move into our quarterfinals. So a lot of interesting matchups across the board. Quite frankly, we're going to be focusing more on Drifters versus Triumph, because that is our match that we're going to be covering in the quarterfinals. And then once that match is over, we'll go ahead and touch base on who's progressing through to the semifinals.
Really interesting matchups on the board as well. You've got Slept On versus Kratos, Odyssey versus Karasuno, Square One versus Revival, and of course the match that we're going to be covering on broadcast, Drifters versus Triumph. A lot of these teams are super heavy hitters when it comes down to the contender scene and the tier 2 scene, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what these teams are going to be able to do, because Trid, we're in a brand new patch. I'm really excited about what we're going to get a chance to see today.
Brand new patch, no hero bans in effect as well, so it's the whole menu a la carte for both these teams. And I will stop making food puns eventually, Rhodes. It's just part of the deal. We're going to have to keep on with this one. But Drifters, they've rebranded. They were comically large crosshair. I'm not going to do the heuristics and recite the number code for the settings. I don't remember that off the top of my head, but I'm sure people in YouTube chat will be doing that right now. But obviously, they were paying paying ode to Tayo, and they've now rebranded to an official organization with Drifters. So looking forward to seeing what they're going to pull out today. They're going up against Triumph, who have had some changes themselves, not with name, but more with the players on the roster.
Yeah, we have seen a little bit of a difference in terms of what the Triumph roster is going to be rocking for today's tournament. We did see Chow retire to go coach, and Triumph also just announced the additions of Off and Vigilante today for the roster. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this squad can do for today's tournament.
Bringing in some reinforcements to supplement the roster. I think the expectation here, Rose, is that I think we're looking towards Drifters to potentially be the stronger of the 2 teams right now. And that's not necessarily about the performance these teams put in historically. In fact, they've not collided in the most recent cycle of contenders, so to speak. But it's more about there's a lot to figure out with this new patch. It's in a state of flux, and Drifters are relying on a more consistent roster. They've not made those changes. I'm certain, obviously, the new additions for Triumph have been announced today, but they've had some playtime beforehand, clearly. It's just an issue of have they been able to figure out this meta whilst also figuring out how to incorporate those new members.
Yeah, that's the question that I have on the top of my mind as well is you don't really want to be adding in an additional mystery component to an already very influx meta. So looking at Triumph to really show us what they've got today, but for both Drifters and Triumph in this latest cycle of August Contenders Trials, they both went undefeated in their groups. So maybe it'd be a little bit closer than what we might expect, even though we do have Drifters favored at this moment.
Well, if they were close, then we'd end up going the full distance with the tournament, which would be interesting because we get to see all of the maps. We're going to kick things off on our first map of the day, which will be Ilios. Now, the rotation of these maps, we're going to start off with Control, and you're going to have to correct me. Of course, production brings a nice little graphic for us to remind me. We're going to kick things off on Ilios. We're moving over to Escort, then to Hybrid, Assault, and we'll finish things off on Control if we need to. But of course, loser picks the next map, so we can't tell you what they're going to be beyond the first stop.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing Ilios as the very first map as well. When you think about a control map and just going on to the classic rotation of map choices and map game modes, I think that control ends up lending itself really, really well to allow teams to feel each other out a little bit. Especially when we're taking a look at a new patch, we're looking at teams to roll out on things that might be a little bit unfamiliar territory for either team to really be dealing with. So I think that this is a great way to just kind of get off on the right foot for both of these teams. And also, when you take a look at the different stages and what they're offered to each team, it's going to be really great to see what these teams come out on.
Yes, and if you've been paying attention to twitter.com, Rose, it's this great website, which is surprisingly free. You're able to go on there and find out what the pro players have been complaining about. And a lot of them in their competitive games, in ranks, have seen a lot of Roadhog running around. Roadhog apparently is a walking flank machine right now with the hooks, with the damage, absolutely eviscerating people and being played more as a damage dealer. At the same time, in that same patch, you had main tanks basically being taken out back like old Yeller. And you have this weird situation where, like you said, we're not seeing a lot of shields right now. And we're not seeing a lot of tank play at the competitive queue level. I wonder how that's going to translate over to more organized competition.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the patch notes that just came through for the current live patch that we're on. Orisa did get a little bit of a nerf. The base armor that she did have was from 250 to 200, and the halt radius actually got a nerf as well, going from 7 meters to 4 meters. So the area of effect that that halt is able to do is going to be very different. And we talk about the tanks. Sigma also got a nerf as well, going from that experimental barrier. You have 900 health going to 700, and the kinetic grasp cooldown went from 10 to 12 seconds. So a lot of damage mitigation, and that Sigma was able to do with that experimental barrier and the kinetic grasp is going to be a little bit different in terms of the cycling through those key components.
Still mitigated. We're seeing a little bit of Reinhardt, though. He wasn't as badly hit by the main tank wave as the rest of them, so there's certain maps where we might see him come through. And Zarya has also been popped around with the damage kind of threat we're coming in from off tanks. But Rose, I've just got confirmation from production. We're jumping into Ilios. Like I said, it's our first map, and really I want to know what stage we're going to land on, because we're all control maps. This is going to dictate certain compositions based on what stage of the map we're playing on, rather than these longer maps which have more room to breathe and change it up.
Absolutely. When you take a look at Ilios and take a look at control maps in general, with each of the individual stages, it offers so much flexibility. And honestly, teams that have the flexibility in their hero pools, they really are able to show their stuff in terms of how they're going to be able to play on these individual stages. But it looks like we're going to be kicking things off on Ruins, and that means we might be seeing a little bit of Widowmaker, specifically from Fi. I'm really looking at that player to make some headway in this matchup.
Decod's going to have to go and jump into that backline and really disrupt a lot of what Fi wants to do, because if Valiant can't hit these shots, he's going to be able to run riot. What is the disruption going on to the backline here as they look for this first fight?
Looking at Nick as well, running a little bit of this kind of classic composition that we get a chance to see in APAC region, but it's going to be Fi with the first kill.
Well, that answers that question. Triumph are without a Widowmaker. They have got point control, which makes it kind of interesting for Drifters right now to try and contest this one. They don't have the threat, but Triumph is playing quite well around Fi's Widowmaker for the time being. We're on board with Buck, who's trying to keep Razor at bay. We'll dance around, pick up the Mega for himself, get the Orb of Discord on him looking for the combo. But that's the first cap coming in for the Triumph. And now they're going to play defense, but an immediate recontest is coming out from Drifters.
Yeah, Drifters is going to be coming back in, except Lep's going to be able to find Razor really early, and that's creating a snowball effect in the backline.
They have been absolutely demolished here. Lip and Buck have torn apart Drifters, and Triumph are able to get control of the point and maintain control, more importantly.
Yeah, and Buck already has this Pulse Bomb, so after being such a lethal force in the backline of Drifters, you're looking at Buck right now to be able to make some big plays with that Pulse Bomb. And also, I have some questions about how Vigilante is going to be using this Nano Boost. Is it going to be for Nick to get the Primal Rage online, or are we going to see something else come through?
Oh, he's giving it over to Nick straight away. Look at how fast he boosted himself up to that ultimate. Decod's been taken out by Valen, so they're not going to be able to shut them down this time around. But now that Primal Rage is available for Nick. Valen again finding Razor. Pulse Bomb gets thrown out by Buck, and it's so easy to shred. He found Fire as well. Valen is absolutely smashing Drifters right now.
Yeah, and you know, that was kind of what we were looking at, was just how these Widowmakers are going to play. Fi has notoriously been a top Widowmaker for the Tier 2 scene in NA, and now it looks like Valen's here to really kind of put the full stop on Fi's Widowmaker. So Valen's been able to find these angles, really find these kills, and find influential value for the team of Triumph.
He didn't find him fast enough, though. Fi's now taken out Buck. So they're missing out with one member. Sound barrier popped by Lep. Valen under pressure right now from Razor. Pulse Bomb gets thrown out. But immediate, look at this. Lep coming in for the support to get him off of Valen, clear up these sight lines. Fi finds another, but he's taken down by Valen, who was freed up, escapes the safety with the grapple hook. While this is going on, Drifters are still trying to fight the point. This is the last fight for them now. They lose this map's going to go all over.
Wow, you even see Icy throw out the Graviton Surge here just to be able to clean up shop, and it looks like it's going to be Drifters getting the flip.
Well, they've got a long way to go, Rose. They've got the flip, but it's 99%. Triumph can just sit on ultimates, bank up all 6, and blow them on the point to get the victory here and move on to the next stage.
Yeah, I'm looking at Off's choice now for this Wrecking Ball. I think that they're really looking at trying to enable Valen as much as possible with this Widowmaker, and just that comes in with creating a lot of disruption in the backline. Nick's on the Winston, Off's on the Wrecking Ball. You can just go in with Buck as well on this Tracer and go Buck wild.
Decod's found Valen. That's exactly what they wanted to see here. Triumph aren't going to be able to push in with the Widowmaker support, and they just crumble on the entry. Great stuff from Drifters so far. They just need to keep up this pressure and not burn crucial ultimates on the defense until it really counts.
Look at Valen now, going over to the Sombra choice, so kind of looking at how to shut down all of this mobility that Drifters has, and there's a really great target as well. You can go after Razor and try to just shut that down, or go after Haruhi on the Zenyatta.
Oh, he needs to be winning those trades. Buck came in to find up and clean up his mess that he should have been able to finish himself. Now he's going to rotate back around to the point, but Triumph have got that pick they need to go for the retake. Nano boosted, Winston on point. Fi takes out Valen! They get zero value from this Sombra change-up because they've been absolutely taken out. Fi finds another, taken out off, so the flip will come in for Triumph. There's a great position for a recontest from Drifters.
Absolutely, and we also see the res come through from Zolik, getting Icy back online. That's huge.
Oh, Buck is absolutely going wild right now. He's taken out so many members of Drifters, and he's carrying this entire team on a recontest right now to make sure they hold on to the point. I don't even know how many kills he picked up in that last fight, Rose, but he's going to seal the deal on this stage for Triumph.
Absolutely. Lep came in clutch with that sound barrier just to be able to help keep Buck alive and get into the backline with those Tracer kills, and it ended up working out really well. Saw a lot of great one clips coming through from Buck, and I think that that's going to be a great start for Triumph here. And this is a little bit unexpected. We kind of thought the Drifters was going to be able to get the first rung of this ladder.
We expected just early on in the whole careers of this, that they were going to be the slightly better team coming into it. Just we expected Synergy to overwhelm them, but there's been some great performances from Buck in particular on Triumph, who's been able to come in here. Yeah, a lot of people excited for the Feed Fest as well. This TM66. It's time, let's get it. Feed Fest, absolutely right. Jump in, enjoy the stream. Triumph and Drifters. It's turning out to be quite a good one so far.
Really has been a great matchup so far, but I like the change-ups that we're seeing here. Looks like Triumph is going to be going with this Sombra dive. Maybe they'll be able to get a bit more value than we saw at the very end of Ruins.
Hopefully, but that biotic grenade is going to shut down any semblance of life that Fi was going to have. Buck will then play Sweeper again to get the kill. He's trying to escape with 27 HP, gets a health pack, but will be shut down by Icy, and now Drifters can take control at this point, stop the cap from coming in for Triumph, and start progressing. But they know, they let it through. They had all the kill advantage there. They had bodies on the point, and they just step off. Triumph still get that cap when they really shouldn't have, and now they're turning it around onto Drifters, and they control the pressure. That is until Off gets taken out of his mech. Will go for the fast recontest, or hopefully he's not going to get back into his mech yet. Nano Boost committed over to Nick. He's going to sweep through, but it's Buck again on the back line, finding Haruhi to take him out as Icy will move back into this corner. Nick again has found both supports now for Triumph, and he takes out Icy to seal the deal. So he did lose control of the point in that engagement, but a double kill for Lep just means the Drifters cannot possibly hold on to this point. It's going to flip back fast to Triumph.
Yeah, Razor ended up using the Pulse Bomb there just to be able to take out Vigilante, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Vigilante's going to be able to use that long-distance healing from afar to be able to come back into this fight, and Triumph have taken back control of this point. Now what I'm looking forward to in terms of what Triumph has on tap next, as I'm looking at Nick's Primal Rage, I'm looking at Buck getting this first kill onto Razor and then opening things up for the tanks of Triumph to get back in there with this Pulse Bomb.
Okay, let's look at hacked up Icy. No Graviton Surge. Pulse Bomb thrown out. He finds Zolik on the back line. No more mercy for Drifters. They get the flip back in. Great grab being forced off, but he's been forced off. Lep comes in, finding his another environmental on Ilios as they press into the back line of Drifters. Buck getting kills onto the back line. I keep saying that, but it keeps happening so many times, Rose. And now they can get the flip, sit on point, and bank this EMP for the next engagement.
Something that I really love about the way that Triumph is playing is they're playing this with Lep. Lep has been able to enable this front line of Triumph with Nick and on the Winston and Off on this Diva to go in and secure kills once Buck ends up doing a lot of damage to each of these teams. But here comes the EMP from Valen.
Mine's free, the dive comes in to follow up. They've hacked up Zolik, and he's forced away from the fight. Lep is so close to going down right now. Someone needs some help, but Razor will go on the hunt, find him. Self-destruct to keep them at bay while they try and find some semblance of a defense. But Razor finding Vigilante with the Pulse Bomb. No one's shutting down these traces. Great stick by Buck. Delivers the kill straight to Icy. Valen's there for Haruhi. So talking about a feed fest, Rose, the only thing that's being fed on right now are the backlines from both teams. No one is protecting them.
No, it's about kind of going in and being aggressive, especially when you take a look at the frontline pressure for both Drifters and Triumph running the Winston and the Diva. You're chasing after each of these kills, and you almost have to leave your backline unprotected.
Bold strategy by Valen there, shooting the pocketed Ash. You're not going to get the kill there, buddy, but I appreciate it. Gets a little bit of ult charge from that. Off, getting the Orb of Discord on top of him, burning out. The tanks are in a bit of difficulty, so Nick is going to go ahead and pop that Primal Rage. Zenyatta absolutely demolished. We're going to take out Decod as well. Looks like Triumph have control of this one. They're on the cusp of walking away with the first map. As they've got control, they need a few more kills to seal the deal.
Just a couple more coming through here, and Valen's going to be able to help out with a little bit of that pressure, but I think that we need to see some ultimates come online for Drifters if they want to be able to stay in this.
Icy self-destruct finds nothing. Decod died with Primal. The rest of the boys will close it out, and Triumph will take away map number 1.
Wow, what a phenomenal show from Triumph so far to be able to capture not only Ruins, but Well as well. And, you know, we were mentioning that Vigilante and Off, this was the first time that we actually got a chance to really see them in action. And I'm super impressed so far by the way that they've been playing.
This is interesting. We're playing another round of Ilios, apparently.
Gotta get them all.
Gotta get all 3 of them, apparently. We'll see how this plans out. So, let's see what they're going to roll out with. And they're going to keep it with similar things. You got Valen on the Sombra. So they're going to keep that as a consistent as they move forward. Teleport off the point as expected. They're going to look for the hack early to get control of the mini.
So Valen's objective here is to shut down Razor. You know, it's in this Sombra versus Sombra, you really want your Sombra to get as much value as possible. So what better way to really be able to kind of shut down that pressure than to shut down the health packs? Razor's not going to be able to hack these.
Nope, and that's exactly what's going to be causing problems for the rest of Drifters. That is unless Decod will go ahead and find Buck. And Nick, it's actually going to be taken out by Haruhi this time around, which means the supports are finally getting some revenge. Point capture not going to be coming in for Triumph. First cap going the way of Drifters.
So Drifters off to a really good start here and maybe on their way to reverse sweeping this map. But Razor right now is actually not keeping on pace with Valen for the most part, but Valen's still outpacing them just a little bit. So you got to be very, very careful about Valen going into your backline with that Sombra.
Okay, they got control of the higher ground. They want to keep an eye on the Sombra. Buck's on point, getting a cheeky flip. He's going to force them to run over to him to contest. They might just let him get the flip. Don't know if that was intended or not, but with Decode going down, how are you going to contest the point? And now they got eyes on Icy to take out the other tank. Buck getting close to that pulse bomb. Could be a deal breaker in the next engagement.
The pulse bomb has been huge. Buck has been able to find value with each pulse bomb thrown out, whether it's been a stick or just being able to get a kill with the pulse bomb. But it's going to be Valen's EMP first.
And Haruhi absolutely demolished as well. And there's so many people getting destroyed by Drifters. It's the tank line. Nick showing up big as he takes out Fi, as they will continue to grow their lead on this last stage of Ilios.
I really like the synergy coming through from Triumph's team. I'm very surprised about how Vigilante and Off have kind of seamlessly included themselves within this lineup, where Vigilante hasn't missed a beat right now in terms of making sure everybody is healed on the team of Triumph.
Yeah, that's been quite impressive. And now I'm looking towards Drifters to go for their recontest. They have the Transcendence, which they can use aggressively. Valen's freshly used EMP should be an indicator of that one. They're going to send the Bob in to contest. Stuck. Haruhi has to pop it early. That's not ideal for Triumph. They will have to go onto the point to reinforce Decod, who needs some help. But here comes the Goon Squad. Icy's there for the support. Off, taken out, and now they've got him off the sides. They're not laying him onto the point. Primal Rage being popped to displace them. Icy really doesn't want to have to use this Graviton Surge, but he's going to need some help until he right-clicks the floor and takes out Buck. As the supports come in, they're just trying to milk whatever they can as they go for a full retreat. Another cap begins up back towards Drifters.
Drifters now has a really great strategy moving forward. They have the EMP from Razor. They also have the Graviton Surge. So cycling through those ultimates should be able to net Drifters a couple of teamfight victories here. Where they might struggle, though, is that Lep does have the sound barrier. So if Lep can stay out of this area of effect of this EMP and come in with a sound barrier, then Triumph might be able to just come in and clutch this out.
Okay, let's keep an eye on that one. It's the engagement. It's Razor versus the sound barrier. Can he cancel it or can he destroy it? They're waiting for that engagement to come in. Razor's just keeping an eye on where Nick is. Him jumping in would be a good indication of when the initiation is going to happen. And there we go. You see him immediately go in with the nano. Razor getting in position to get as many people as possible. Graviton Surge will lock him up. Hacks up the Diva as well. Can't soak up as much of the damage. Bob thrown into the point as well. Great angle there to catch off Nick. And Off is caught off guard as well. How are they going to be able to contest this one? Fi's damage is enough to help Decod finish it up. And now we're moving into last fight territory for Triumph. They do have ultimates on the board to still play with.
Yeah, and it's still the battle of the EMP versus the sound barrier for this one. Lep has a lot on their shoulders in terms of making sure that they can come in and deny Drifters from being able to use this EMP and finish out this round. We'll see what happens as Razor is on the point and gets detected.
Oh, they hit him with a little bit of a spy check. Has to back away. They got a good window to attack. Valen was already in position to try and capitalize. He did not get himself that sound barrier and will get taken out by Razor. Buck will deal with Decod, so they're missing the tank, but Razor again. The res comes in for Drifters. They do not want to lose this map, Rose, as they will collapse onto the point and shut down the offense from Triumph.
Wow, and just like that, Drifters is going to be able to bring us a score in this map. And we've got a real series on our hands between these two teams.
Yeah, I'm curious what comes next in the rotation. Typically, we don't go this far in an Ilios matchup, so we'll see what comes up next. We're going back to Ruin, so we're just cycling back to the start. And if we remember what happened on the first attempt, a lot of Widowmaker until both teams gave up on that endeavor and moved over to the Sombra. So I think they're just going to roll from the off with that one after they get those early TPs.
Yeah, and something else that I think has been really special about the way that Triumph and Drifters have actually played this dive is that they're doing something very classic of the APAC region, going with the Winston as well as the Zarya, using those bubbles incredibly aggressively from that Zarya in order to project those onto the Winston that's been jumping into the backline, or maybe the Tracer that's actually going to be going back there. So I like the strategy from Triumph. They recognize, if it's not broken, we're not going to fix it. We won this first round of Ilios on Ruins with Valen on this Widowmaker. Let's see if we can have the repeat success here.
The Venn diagram on the point. It's not going to amount to anything right now. Discord, Orb on Nick in the corner. Zolik gets taken out. And once again, Triumph, they emerge ahead on Ruins. Not on the back of Valen, but from some technical support play coming in for the backline.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of great play from Drifters to just kind of play around the sightlines that Valen actually wants to be able to have on this point. But unfortunately, that also puts them in a precarious position when you do have an aggressive main tank like Nick coming after your backline. And when you get locked in a corner between a Winston and a hard place, that doesn't necessarily usually go well for your team. Drifters, though, going to be able to come back into this one when they get this EMP online, or if they get a really nice anti-nade from Haruhi coming through.
Let's see what we can do. Fire, he's on the speed line. Great cover by Lep. How does he know? Every time he's just there to protect Valen, and he keeps Fi at bay. This is not what should be happening. And Buck, uncontested by the Brigitte, by the Ana, is able to do what we did not see happening from Fi. And that just means that Triumph get the edge here, and they're able to come in for a clean recontest on this one. Valen, you're just taking the mickey now, mate. Taking out Fi, taking out Razor. There's nothing they can do. Flip goes Triumph.
Flip goes Triumph, and now we're also in a position where Triumph has ultimates, so they should be able to use these info sites to see where Drifters is going to be coming from, which is going to give Buck a lot of information about how to use this Pulse Bomb. And then, as we've seen before, the Nano Boost from Vigilante has been really finding its mark onto just making sure that the rest of the members of the team can actually get their ultimates online. So looking at seeing quite a few ultimates come through here.
Grabbing the feet as expected. But it means Nick is still going to get away. He shouldn't have got away with that one. Well, Decod will chase him down. Good amount of kills coming in for Drifters. They should be able to get the flip if they're lucky. We still have to get through Valen, who's laying a lot of pressure down onto Icy. And now Off's going to take out Decod as well. They've got no tank presence on the point right now, so they're not going to be able to get the flip. And we're entering last fight territory, Rose. This could be the map.
This could be the map. We are on match point, so this is gonna be the last fight that Drifters has in order to get back into this. They do have the EMP, and Lep does not have a sound barrier.
Well, they're gonna lock up a lot of members from Triumph. Fi holding onto the Pulse Bomb for now, trying to milk everything he can, but he goes down! Sitting on the Pulse Bomb as well. That was not the play, Chief. Drifters are gonna really struggle to fight this one back because they've not got any answer for Buck, who's dancing around the field. Taking out Decod as well. Icy's about to drop. He gets a great biotic grenade to keep him up. But they're going to move on to the point to contest it, keep the overtime alive, but they're not finding the kills. They're not removing the bodies. And that's a nice spray down again. Buck dancing around the Brigitte. The shield is not going to last long enough. Pulse Bomb online. He's going to throw that straight at Decod. Will miss out away from it, but the damage is still going to erode him away. No one's left to contest. Triumph take map number 1.
Ooh, and an interesting turn of events. We did play out multiple rounds of this first map of Ilios, but first to 3, Triumph gets that first to 3, and now this is going to give them a 1-map lead in the series over Drifters.
Let's take a look at the play of the game. Lep just finding a double kill on exit. Actually spawn camping, by the way. Drifters can't have possibly had an answer for that one. Returns back to the point.
What's been really interesting to me is how Lep has actually played with this team. I mean, you can't follow where this Lucio is. Either they're at your spawn, they're getting double kills, or they're on your Widowmaker, just making sure that they can skirt away from all of that damage. It's been really, really excellent awareness coming through from Lep to really aid Triumph in this current lead that they have over Drifters.
Yeah, Lep has been a standout player. Like, we saw him so many times covering for Valen on the back line, and then we also see him in the play of the game spawn camping as well, which It's not really conducive. Doesn't really go hand in hand a lot of the times, Rose. But anyway, that's a great first map. We've got plenty more action. Drifters, they're going to have to come back onto this one. We weren't expecting Triumph to win that first map. But after the break, we'll bring you map number 2. But remember, before we go, thanks to Frontier Communications for sponsoring this tournament. And check out www.frontier.com to learn about availability in your area. And while you're at it, go ahead and put !Frontier in the chat to get more information. We're going to the break. We'll see you back on the next one.
Speed Freaks devour speed. Yummy, yummy speed. Speed Freaks have gig service internet for just $74.99 a month plus taxes and fees. Let us guide the Speed Freak in you. Speed Freaks do everything. All at once, whenever they want. Speed Freaks have gig service internet for just $74.99 a month plus taxes and fees. Let us guide the Speed Freak in you.
Overwatch is different now that the meta's changing every week. We need a few ground rules in order to survive. Rule number 5 is, always take time to reset your mental. That time in between leaving spawn and arriving to the next fight is your chance to take a deep breath. Getting tilted in teamfight after teamfight could cost you the game.
Continually losing that Widow duel? Did you mute your team to avoid the cries asking you to swap? Maybe you're just feeding. Swap to another character. Now the enemy team is feeding you.
The feeding won't stop here at the Feed Fest, presented by FiOS from Frontier. I'm Trid, this is Necra. Triumph are unexpectedly leading the series 1-0 after a surprising Ilios.
Yeah, the players actually really wanted to play that first map out to a 1-3, which is super interesting. I guess they just wanted to make sure they were nice and warm and ready for the rest of the series. But we have a lot more to show you. We are playing every single match as a best of 5 1-3. So Triumph still has a long way to go if they want to be able to take this first series over Drifters.
Yeah, and I'm going to need to see some adaptations here. The back line is basically under perpetual assault for both of these teams, and Triumph are handling that pressure a lot better than Drifters are right now. In particular, Lep is able to provide unparalleled levels of support to not only his fellow support, but also Valiant when he's playing at range with the Widowmaker.
Yeah, we got a chance to see this on Ruin specifically, where Lep was able to kite Valen away from the line of fire coming through from from Razor. And I think that was something that was really, really special about the way that Triumph were able to play, is that their backline, Lep, they're able to really put themselves forward in terms of kind of carrying the team right now.
Yeah, definitely putting a lot of effort into that. But Buck was very fantastic on the Tracer as well, oftentimes out-dueling his mirror matchup. Let's take a look at that map graphic again for you, just to remind you where we are going. So Ilios went the way of Triumph. We're heading over to our escort map type, which is Route 66.
And this is Drifter's choice. So from here on out, we are going to have a loser's pick. So Drifters has chosen to take us to Route 66, which brings into question that they probably have a good strategy in terms of how they want to actually play this map. Especially when you take a look at the verticality that is offered on this first point. I think that they're going to see a little bit more of that dive coming through. But you also have to be wary about that third point in terms of the close quarters. If we get to a third point scenario, then you really need to make sure that you're prepared for the inevitable, which is just all out brawls happening on that point.
All right, so Drifters are already set up on the defense, pretty much as expected. No surprises here. Gonna keep Razor on that Sombra. He was able to perform quite well on that one. I'm not gonna completely discard it and say he was just losing the mirror to Valen. I think there's a lot more elements that go into playing the Sombra than just the straight head-to-head. There's a lot of comms work, a lot of support that comes into it. But I want to see more and see if Razor can really step up to the plate with his Sombra this time around.
Well, here's something that's really interesting is Lep is not playing the Lucio this time, but it's actually going to be playing the Mercy, recognizing that speed's not going to be nearly as important of a factor in terms of getting to that point. But look at that damage boost coming through for Buck.
Okay, so Icy's going to get destroyed. That means no bubbles. And then Decode gets hacked. He's going to be dismantled as well. So you immediately lose your tanks, and now Off is able to seal off this door and stop the rest of Drifters from coming in and even touching this cart.
So this cart's going to be able to move forward pretty quickly here for Triumph. And Vigilante is doing, you know, the choice work of making sure that that cart's going to move forward. But look at Valen winning out these 1v1s like you mentioned. Razor is just going to go down.
That wasn't I'll clarify, that wasn't a 1v1. I saw that happening in the background of this entire scenic shot we're getting. And Razor revealed himself, started taking a few shots, but then didn't translocate out of the fight and got turned on quite quickly. Speaking of being turned on, this is a bit of a problem for Fi. Hacked up, can't dash away, can't recall, so Off is going to take him out as well. This is some great target calling from Triumph to pick off these hacked targets immediately.
Yeah, Valen's been doing a lot of great work in terms of just hacking down a target and then also letting the team know who has that hack or who is the next target on the team.
Well, thankfully Icy was able to shut down Buck, because if he didn't do that, then I'm pretty certain we would have been looking at one of the very rare solo aces from teams. Because Buck was just on an absolute rampage. He's going to have that Bob online for the next fight.
Yeah, you can also see the Mercy choice really coming into play here. Yes, Icy did get a chance to take Buck out of the fight, but with the Resurrect online, Lep is able to bring Buck back into these fights very, very quickly and make sure that that Bob is going to be a part of this equation for the next team fight. And if the Bob wasn't enough for you, then Valen also has EMP. There's a lot for Triumph here.
I love what Nick's doing here. Shuts down Zolik. You got no Lucio for the next fight, and now he goes to find another isolated member. He was tenderized by the support line just for Nico or Nick to come in there and get those kills. And he just comes back to the team, gets all the support. It's just looking so textbook from Triumph. Everything's just coming off without a hitch right now.
They're really executing this dive well, and you know, a lot of teams, they are sometimes wary about being able to run the Winston and the Zarya together, but taking a page out of that APAC textbook, and here comes that EMP.
Locks down Valen and off. I actually think the May got cancelled out of that EMP there. No one on Drifters got affected by that, so that could have been some great timing by Razor to make that happen. Decod moves forward with the Primal Rage, and the rest of Drifters are able to get on the recontest. Yeah, I'm going to need to see some replays of that afterwards. I'm pretty certain that Valen got cancelled out of that one. Otherwise, he was way off with his EMP placement.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate use of the EMP there because it netted Drifters the team fight win, and now they've got firm control of this defense, able to get set up now. And Drifters has been a team that I've seen do really well with a lot of setup, so as long as they can keep control of these high grounds and use these resources that they have first, then they will be able to take these team fights in a secured fashion. I'm looking at Icy right now with this Graviton Surge, being able to lock members into this mine shaft.
He just yeets it from afar to lock down Buck. Didn't even need the reinforcements from Nick to come in for that one. He can walk forward. While this is going on, they are losing members of the backline though. Both Lep and Buck taken out for Triumph. You're gonna have to press forward without them. Off's about to have a Graviton Surge of his own for this next fight.
Graviton Surge has been a decent resource for these teams to have in terms of just being able to lock down one or two members, but look at this! Zolik's using the sound barrier here.
This is a really weird decision from Drifters because you have to remember, this isn't even a full strength Triumph coming into this one. They blew their two crucial ultimates, and now Buck walks up to the fight. He's just gonna pick them off from afar, throws in the bob as well. Those resources could have been really useful right about now, Rose. I do not think this was the play from Drifters.
Unfortunately, not having the sound barrier means that they are going to fall victim to that Graviton Surge coming through from off, and now the reinforcements for Triumph are just coming through.
And Valen's able to just get in the face of Fi, takes him out, will potentially go down. Great pocket and translocate to get himself to safety. They still haven't removed Decod from this point, which can be problematic if reinforcements come in. But as the Nano Boost being committed, he's hacked up immediately. Gonna follow up with the EMP to ground Zolik and remove that sticking power from the point as well. This is not looking clean now from Triumph. They've not been able to get anyone off the payload, and they're burning so much of their time bank to achieve this.
They're still trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink at this point, though, in order to be able to capture it, and there it comes. The capture comes through for the second point, and we're going to see some changes in the team composition that comes through now. Off did switch over to the Wrecking Ball just to be able to get back to point a little bit faster. Is going to switch back over to the Zarya for these more close and enclosed fights. So Nick taking control of the high ground here should be able to have a bit of an advantage coming through, but Icy finds Buck.
Immediately res, but it will cost Lep his life, and he follows up and kills Buck anyway. So the res was all for naught. Is they're now going to hold this payload on the corner. They've got the Graviton, they've got the EMP. We've seen this combo online for Drifters so many times, and it's not been a definitive fight win for them yet.
No, unfortunately, Icy hasn't really been able to capture more than maybe one or two members in the team, but this is a good Graviton.
It does make it really hard for them to be accessible, though. Gets it up on the high ground, so it's difficult for anyone to get close to that and just have to deal damage from afar. Buck gonna roll out this one with 40 HP and hopefully get some healing, because he can't challenge that range right now. There's a whole meet of people in front of him. Stopping him from getting there as Fi will take out Nick. Start pushing Triumph back once again. This long corridor is really going to see Fi getting great value if they can't get onto him.
You know what I've noticed? These poor Winston players for both of the teams, they haven't really been able to play the game.
No.
Decod specifically for Drifters has fallen to every single CC imaginable. Hacks, sleeps, literally can't play the game like it's happening again.
Yeah, ready for the follow-up EMP. Great movement by Valen. Will dodge out of that one, so he doesn't get caught. Lep seems to be the primary target, but even he still lives. So that EMP from Drifters not finding conclusive kills once again. And now Valen can attempt to do this with his own EMP. Hits the stealth, wants to sneak through here without being spy checked. Translocated to the back line. There's the EMP. But where's the follow-up dive? It's not there, and Fi ends up taking out Lep. This has not gone correctly for Triumph. That was a bit of a misfire from them.
Not having the EMP for these close quarters means that I would consider potentially switching to something that might be able to find a bit more value and point presence, but we have 30 seconds remaining, so there's only one fight left. This has to be the biggest graviton surge from off we have ever seen in order to get this cart moving forward, because that's really the only resource that Triumph has right now besides the nano boost.
They're probably going to give that nano boost over to Nick, but they're already under pressure on the backline from Decode. If he finds a pick here, it's all over. It actually forces their nano boost early onto Nick, who has to pull the trigger on this dive, but it wasn't set up. He will find Aruhi, as Off needs to take out someone else, throws the graviton before retreating. They're going to be caught up on the grab themselves. That's around the point, so it's absolutely fine. But here comes Decode with the fist as he takes out Lep. He takes out Off. He finds the third. He wants one more, but Buck says no. The push will stay alive, but the wind has been completely taken from the sails here. Triumph should be able to end the payload here and look to go for their defense.
Here
Wait,
comes...
there's more!
Yeah, there is more.
There's going to be a counter EMP. They're just blowing ultimates onto the payload. Decod, he's going to be alive for now as he switches over to the Reinhardt to get back to the point faster. But Nick immediately removed. He was anti-naded. All that CC. The Winstons were not allowed to play Overwatch once again. This is an absolute brawl on the payload, and Fi pays the price for getting up close.
Oh, Buck unfortunately ends up running into their own pulse bomb there, so not going to be able to find value from that just yet. But Vigilante's been popping off on the Zenyatta and might even have a Transcendence if this brawl goes on long enough.
Well, he's been removed just as you say that. You cast the Curse Dim Rose, and Decod will go down before he gets his ultimate online as well. This has been an absolute circus fiasco on the point right now, and Triumph have not been able to move it until right now. But the spawn advantage is in favor of Drifters. They're not doing this coordinate. They're just staggering this out. Just group of 6 and end it.
I mean, yeah, when the going gets tough, you kind of can't just regroup and end it here. But look at Decode coming back out with the Earth Shatter, and now another EMP from Valen. Oh my goodness.
Just hacked out again, and this is just anarchy. There's the beat from Triumph. They're pushing this forward. Zolix up in the skybox will get taken out. After all of the shenanigans, they're so close to the victory. They're clearing out members of Drifters just as fast as they're touching, but they've not sealed the deal just yet. The minefield might not be enough. There's the pulse bomb going in onto the point. It finds Lep. They're missing some healing. The recontest comes out once again from Drifters.
What? They might be able to get it if they get something big, but no! That's gonna be Triumph capping the third point.
Okay, so this was supposed to be a festival of feeding. It has just been a festival of anarchy right now. That was just a solid maybe minute and a half or 2 minutes of overtime fighting where both of the teams couldn't get a decisive victory, and it just led to a continuation of something which, thankfully for Triumph, ended up with a map finish. I don't know what my takeaways from that are, Rose.
I'm not sure if I have anything good to follow that up with either. That was just a absolute, you know, honestly, the tournament's kind of living up to its name if you want to give that last 2 minutes a really good look at.
Hey, it just plays to the mantra, everything is winnable. Everything is winnable. So you just throw every option you have and the kitchen sink at that payload to try and force it over the line. Thankfully, Triumph have set quite a high bar for Drifters to meet, and they've made their margin of error so much higher. So Triumph are in a good position to take this to series point, provided they put out this great defense that's required to stop the completion.
You know what I will say? Valen, they did get like 3 EMPs online in those last like 2 minutes. So that was charging incredibly quickly. And so you can see Valen now trying to get set up and trying to attack the backline here of Drifters as they do come out of spawn.
Press forward onto this first corner. Buck's Ash has been quite a delight right now. They don't have the range to contest them, as Haruhi will be taken out quite easily by that range again. Who's going to be contesting the backline? Because you're not sending your tanks in, and you're losing your own right now because you haven't dealt with the Valen problem. He's just sitting there right now, taking everyone out. Triumph shut down that first offensive quite handily, and Fi recognizes this and switches over to the Ashe to contest at range.
We have the Ashe as well as the Mercy pick coming through, so Zolik should be able to help keep Haruhi up and running, and as well as protect the rest of the backline with some of that, targeted healing coming through. But what Icy's been doing with these projected barriers is something to look at as well. They've really been used for decod to be able to stop some of those CC effects like the sleeps coming through, as well as those hacks. And now that means that you don't have those to protect your backline.
Absolutely. As Icy will now move around, gonna support Decod on the dive with the bubble, but that only lasts so long. The Nano Boost comes in to reinvigorate it. EMP comes in maybe a little bit too late from Triumph because all the resources were committed already. And now Decod's allowed to do Decod things. Just pops the Primal Rage after the Nano Boost has been given over to him, and Drifters can push this onto the home stretch of point A.
Look at how different this team plays when Decod's actually able to play the game. As I mentioned before, you had a lot of very targeted attacks at Decod's, like Winston specifically, just with the sleeps, the hacks, the anti-nades coming through from Vigilante, and it made it very difficult for Decod to actually do Winston things. But look at that headshot, my goodness.
It's more about the res cooldown that comes in afterwards. They won't have this for the next fight. Bucks, Bob is just going to take out Decod. You can't res that. Great anti-nade onto the Ana. Where's the dive follow-up? It's all there as Nick will throw in with the Primal Rage. Great recontest coming in from Triumph on point A. They're going to have a little bit more time on this first section.
They're able to set back up too, which is really important, and bring us close to that 1.5 minute mark. That means that Drifters doesn't actually have too much time left in order to cycle through their ultimates and actually build up to key ones. Looking at the Graviton surges now for both of these teams to play in effect here, but Drifters has far more ultimates in their bank than what Triumph's going to have moving into this next fight. The EMP is going to be coming online as well as the Valkyrie, and Icy can use this early.
Great punish against Off. That's huge for Icy. And the ultimates were forced out from Triumph. They just dropped that grab at the door to try and keep him alive. That was an amazing punish, and it's just paid them dividends right now because they should be able to walk away and get point A from that.
Absolutely. That was really, really big. And when you're taking a look at the Graviton surges getting used for either team, even though we do see Off switching over to the Wrecking Ball, you don't need to necessarily get more than 1 or 2 members. As long as you have the follow-up onto those kills, that should be enough to net you that team fight win.
Don't know if you want to be taking this engagement 2v1. Fi has to back away, can't get the healing. He won't be able to get the healing pocket, so he'll get the damage pocket instead. It's enough to force away Decod, but now that ultimate economy for Drifters is still going to carry forward onto this next point. Like I said, the only ultimate that was required was that Graviton Surge. So they have a lot to play with on point B, but they can't use it if they're hacked up. And Valen will take out Fi to kick this recontest. And there's the Bionic Grenade onto Nick. He has to jump onto the back line. He's coming back to deal with his fellow Winston as Valen will take out Decod. And they go back to the point to burn more this time. Like, the doors should be close to closing. It's going to make it even harder for them to push through. Oh no, Zolik. You didn't want to jump into this Fiesta. They'll be burnt out by the Tesla cannon, and Bob's going to take a quick nap from the EMP as Drifters will look for another route onto this payload.
It's going to be really tough to get through because Nick has both of these chokes on lock right now, and if you want to go up through the side, then it's still going to be very difficult too, because look at where Off is sitting. Off has the mobility as well to get through to that canyon or to the mine shaft.
Bucks holding these long angles again. That's going to be a problem for Drifters as they push through. They go control on Mega Room. Gets the support he needs to separate out Coach Gunpow's away. Primal Rage, he just won't quit. As he's hacked up, that should give Bruck some breathing room to get away. Still being pocketed. Great shot onto Razor. Shuts down the pressure his support was feeling right then. They'll go back up the high ground looking for Fi. Takes a few shots. Hasn't found that kill just yet, but Decod will go down to Valen as they look to set up on a defense. And Off's come back on the Wrecking Ball. He's got the minefield ready to go. Should he choose it, as he wants to follow up off the back of another huge anti-nade from Vigilante.
Vigilante has also been a player that has really impressed me in this series, and as one of the newer pickups for Triumph as well. At the beginning of the series, we had some questions about how this roster was specifically going to meld together for this tournament, but Vigilante and Off have both been seamless components into this team roster, and Vigilante specifically has been so good landing these sleeps onto Decod and also shutting down a lot of this backline pressure that Drifters wants to put onto the team of Triumph.
Valen wants to go in with the EMP. He's only going to find free on the back line. Countergrab comes out to shut the aggression. They need to deal with Decod right now. They've got a good window of opportunity to shut it down. Bye-bye, Razor. No EMP for you. Triumph need to hold on to this one. Drifters have to go for a fast reset because they're only going to get one more fight, but they're popping everything into this engagement and they're not finding the kills, Rose. This is their last fight. They can't be wasting resources.
No, they can't, and we see the Valkyrie come through from Zolik already. Now all we have left for Drifters is going to be the EMP to be able to make it through the second point, and that's a super, super low Razor.
Well, Haruzi, who's already gone down, forcing out the res from Zolik, so they're not going to get another mistake. EMP finding Off and Buck, but there's no pressure, there's no follow-up because they're too busy dealing with what Nick was doing on the back line. Icy eventually takes him out as he will move on to deal with the Buck problem. High ground's being cleared out by Decod. There's a recontest opportunity from Triumph. They just need to win one fight in point B to shut this all down, and they're gonna have the distance to do it.
We do see Drifters be able to move this cart forward with a decisive team win in that last fight. Had to throw a lot of ultimates at this, though, to be able to make it this far. And Triumph, they still have a chance to come back in for another recontest. If they're able to come back through, especially with the Wrecking Ball mines, that might force everybody off the point.
Valen thankfully has the pack. He's going to interrupt the sleep. Haru, he's found Buck on the Tracer. This is looking good for the completion. They can't get onto the point right now because there's a huge Decod in the way. Hacked up, he hasn't got control of the Mega, finds the kill! And the rest of his team does everything they need to, extending their time and moving on to the final section of this map.
A minute is not too much time to be able to make it through this third point. Historically, a very, very tough point to capture for the attack on Route 66, but Drifters, they've been able to work up to several key resources in order to actually make it through this point. And I'm looking at right now at Icy's Graviton Surge once again has been able to land some great solo grabs, especially with members of Triumph that get caught out of position. Let's see if Icy can continue through with that.
Well, he's hacked, so the Nano Boost is going to have to keep him alive. He's got the grab, and he'll have barriers to use after this one. Hacked again immediately. They do not want Icy playing Overwatch today, but he's kept alive. His team will not let him fail, and now he's going to be able to return with the Graviton Surge. Oh, he gets the grab out, but he's hacked immediately afterwards. He should go down here, and the grab found absolutely no one. That is not what you want to see of your Drifters. 25 seconds remaining, Rose. They have to reset fast, or they will not be able to push this over the line.
Oh, they have to reset fast, and Razor gets found out as well. Razor's trying to go in for the setup with this EMP right now, but Valen is not letting that happen.
No, he's not letting it happen. Valen will go down, so he will be able to set up EMP online. Buck has a Bob to throw into the mix. They just need to win this one fight, and they will go to series point. Great headshot already onto Decod. Orb Discord thrown in. There's the Bob on the payload to contest it for him. The EMP is going to come out. It finds 3 members, but the transcendence from Vigilante. It's huge, and they're not going to be able to shut this one down. They're looking to support whoever, but the payload keeps on moving. They're going to set up again. Here's a Bob coming in onto the back line. Will force the Rats out of cover as Fi's found 2 with the Bob, and it's going to be pushed over the line. They've done enough here, Rose. Another overtime push should get them in a position where they will go ahead and have us do another attempt at Route 66.
Let's do it again, Trid. Let's do it again. Looking forward to these extra innings now of Route 66 because this has been a close one. Drifters have been absolute overtime champions, taking a look at how they clutched it out on that second point as well as that third point.
Initiating match.
Okay, but it's slightly different when we get into this overtime, Rose. They got the 1 minute to push, and as soon as overtime kicks in, things start to get a little bit crazy like they have been doing on Route 66. So we'll see what happens as we move on to point A. I'm expecting, or I really want to see one of these teams attempt to do a close hold on point A and burn that time bank thoroughly.
Yeah, almost in sometimes these situations, I feel like the team that has to go to the defense first ends up being kind of in a little bit of a better position in terms of just maybe being able to set the goalpost in a lot of ways. But I don't know, we're going to have to see whether or not these teams decide to go for a bit of a closer hold here, as that would be nice to see. But I think that with the dive coming through, at least coming out from Drifters, they're not going to want to actually take that close hold. It's too risky when they don't have that component like a May or a Bastion to be able to get through that first part of Route 66.
And you're absolutely right, Rose. They're sitting on top of the gas station right now, and they'll look to see the lay of the land before committing to an engagement.
Triumph's going to be able to walk out here. Looks like Buck's on scouting duty at the moment to try to find Razor in the back line. Won't be able to find them just yet, but will be able to spot that Drifters is waiting for them on top of Big Earls.
Great counter dive coming in from Decod, as he will try and deal with the pressure coming in from Nick. Damage boosted Buck spraying a few shots. The payload will get contested here, up and over with the protected barrier. Nick needs to get away. He's under a lot of pressure. He's still kept alive. He's sitting in his bubble. Someone heal Nick, please. But while you're trying to heal Nick, you're not healing Buck, so you're going to have to trade the res instead to get him back in the field. This is a great first showing from Icy. They need a couple more kills, but Nick's found that decon pick he was looking for. Icy needs to go down here. The bio grenade will seal the deal for that one. This fire will move around. Not a lot of members from Triumph left standing, but they do have time as overtime will about to be triggered. Valen might have to back out of this one with the protected barrier. They can't let him die. Someone has to touch. And look who's in position for it. Off is there with the nano boost and high energy, burning through who they can. But the shots coming in from Fi, try and shut it all down. There's the EMP, only finding Decod, but that might be enough as Zolik pox a res just to get him into the fight and keep everyone alive.
A lot of things getting thrown out here as we do see the overtime start to wick away, but Icy tries to come through with the Graviton Surge to come in clutch, and Razor doesn't find too much with that EMP.
Off is in his face. It is going to shut down Icy, moving on to Haruhi as well. The Bob is not long for this world, and they will get themselves point A, moving on to the next section of Route 66. But we're in overtime, Rose. No mistakes, no fight losses. You just got to see how far you can go before you're taken out.
Yeah, and there's so many resources for Triumph to continue their their way forward. Yes, they get this first cap, but they also have the Primal Rage, and they have a sound barrier to be able to deal with this Graviton Surge coming through from Drifters. Lep has been able to come in clutch with these sound barriers, as well as just being able to kite members away from damage. So they have great situational awareness, and Buck finds an early pick.
But they've committed the Graviton Surge from afar as well onto the point. They're trying to find picks on the payload. Icy needs some assistance because right now he's just not getting it. And Triumph continue to dominate. Drifters, that was their play. They were trying to do it, but that early pick onto Fire shut down momentum. And now he's switching over to the McCree to try and help deal with Buck.
Buck has been able to go absolutely rampant in the backline of Drifters. So Vi switching over to this McCree, definitely looking at that flashbang right now, not only for Buck, but also trying to find Valen's number on this Sombra as well, as Valen is working up to yet another EMP.
On the point, Primal Rage being popped. They're trading Zarya beams right now. Buck's getting the assistance. Fi's taken out off. He was so close to that Graviton Surge, Rose. That might be the game breaker for them. But Buck and Lep, they're doing the Lord's work right now as they're shutting it all down. Zolik, Haruhi, they're finding kills. The Bio Grenade will make sure the Lucio falls. But Drifters, they've taken control of the payload. They just need to find the stragglers and they can seal the deal. There's a sleep on the Valen. They don't time the execute correctly. Lep will go down. They step away. They're not fast enough at touching. And just shy of point B is where Triumph lent.
That's still a far distance for that payload to travel with just a minute on the clock. They kind of went the mile with that one. So I'm really excited to see how Drifters is going to respond to this, because that's quite a bit of progress for this card to make. And Drifters now has a chance at this attack.
Well, there's an update there on your screen. Karasuno, they're winning out 3-0, and they will be moving on to the semifinals. So we'll be catching up with them after this series. So we're looking towards Triumph to defend against Drifters and go to our, what could possibly be, final map. But there's 1 minute, and Drifters, please, I know we don't like to talk about offensive spawns, but please, 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 run the Bastion. Do it. You need to think outside of the box for this one, and that could be the play.
Oh, I would love to see it come through, but we get baited.
You didn't get baited, I did. You just said, you did the correct thing and just didn't acknowledge it. I made the mistake.
Well, I was hoping for it just as much as you were to see the Razor Bastion come through, but you know what I think is going to be super interesting about how this is going to play out is that if looking just at the defense specifically for right now, we do have Triumph in a bit of a close hold here.
Yes, you love to see it. I thought one of these teams would try it, and it turns out Triumph is going to do it, and they found Razor. Faster respawns though, so don't get too cocky. If you lose someone, it's going to fall apart fast. But that's exactly what Triumph are not going to do, as they find free and slow down the push from Drifters, and the time bank has already been halved.
Yeah, that means that we really can only see one more cohesive push come through from Drifters, and with 30 seconds remaining, you got to be able to find these picks, but the way that Buck is sitting and how far away they are, DCOD has to commit a lot of resources to be able to try to contest them on the high ground.
He's hacked up as well. He's not going to be able to get up there at all. Gets the protective barrier. They found Vigilante. That was the pick they need, and now they can press forward. The rest comes in from left. They have to punish the Mercy, otherwise this is not good at all. But they take it out Valen. He won't be getting the shortcut back to the point. Do you notice how different Triumph plays? They back off entirely. They know they have space to play with. They do not want to get staggered out here and let this momentum continue.
No, they don't. And they also know that they have the nano boost online as well, which they can just throw over to Nick. But Buck gets taken down really, really low. Get some healing. Here comes the nano boost.
The pockets from the supports have been good. Icy providing protective barrier as well. Nick hacked up. He's not going to be able to get away. Can't pop the Primal Rage. But the kills are coming in for Triumph. They found free. Bob trying to keep the supports at bay. If they can just take out Icy, they're going to be in a great spot right now. But the Bionic Grenade means it's so hard for him to get away with that one. EMP from Valen finds free, as Icy can still not get this Graviton Surge out. That barrier ends. They lock down left. But where's the follow-up damage? They can't touch the Mercy, and he gets away once again, as Triumph are still fighting on this point.
Oh, the Graviton Surge comes through though from off, and that might be able to seal the deal here as that anti-nade comes on top of it.
Oh, that's enough. That's enough, Rose. Cut the check. Triumph, they take us 2-0 scoreline as we look towards series point.
What a phenomenal showing, though. I mean, Triumph really did set the goalposts, but like Lep deserves this yet again. Like, I just want to take a moment to just really pay this play the respect that it deserves, because you can see how Lep plays this so well with the situational awareness in order to just micro put on the speed just in that nick of time in order to actually allow that aggression to come forward from Triumph. Like, such great awareness coming in from this support player.
Yeah, and let's not take the wind out of the sails of Drifters, right? Because I want to point out that they played a lot through Icy in that last map, and Icy rarely messed up. Like, he rarely beefed it. He was able to just contest.
Speed freaks do everything. All at once, whenever they want. Speed freaks have gig service internet for just $74.99 a month plus taxes and fees. Let us guide the speed freak in you.
Overwatch is different now that the meta is changing every week. We need a few ground rules in order to survive. Rule number 1 is, always be ready to hit that emote key. Did you just nail the perfect shot? Take a moment. Rub it in the other team's face. Everyone needs a moment to shine. Which brings me to rule number 2. Don't glow for too long or you'll get what's coming. Be safe out there.
Maybe this time charging into the team fight will work. Oh, you should have stuck with your team. It worked last time. But don't worry, the enemy team says thanks. Feed Fest. If there's a place to try that trick play, it's here. Register and tune in for the best that Tier 2 Overwatch has to offer.
Different now that the meta is changing every week. We need a few ground rules in order to survive. Rule number 3 is click heads. The quickest way to kill is a headshot. Move your mouse over to where the head is going and click it. Click it good. Headshots cause maximum damage and are more likely to turn the tide of your game. Boom. Easy as that. Click heads, that's how you win.
Welcome back to the Valiant Feed Fest presented by FiOS from Frontier. Apologies for the technical issues at the end of the last series, but the one takeaway you need to be carrying forth into this next match, Rose, is that we are at series point. A 3-0 scoreline will give Triumph the win and move on to the semi-finals to find out who their opponent will be.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to this next map in particular because it's going to be a classic, one for the ages, one for the books for sure, and that's going to be King's Row. And this is also a drifter's choice. So I'm just kind of wondering what they're thinking about in these couple of moments here, picking Route 66, picking King's Row as their map choices, and then, Triumph coming in and just having really dominant performances for maps 1 and 2. King's Row is going to be a doozy for sure.
Oh yeah, they just can't catch a break right now, Rose. And I think a lot of the players are picking King's Row because, well, it's the classic. Who doesn't love to play on King's Row? It's touted as one of the chef's kiss S-tier matches, S-tier maps, sorry, in Overwatch. So I wonder how that's going to play out. Interesting to see what they'll roll out with this one. The name of the game so far has been Dive. That's all we're seeing right now. Winston backed up by Azaria, and all manner of damage dealers coming out, but consistently we're seeing a lot of the Ana to reinforce the dive with the anti-nades and the nano boost as well. So I expect to see more of that potentially. We'll find out though, because the honest answer is, Rose, we don't know. We're playing on a new patch and this is uncharted territory.
It really has been uncharted territory. So a lot of the things that we're seeing today might not even stick for the next couple of weeks, but it's what teams feel comfortable with right now. And a lot of what we're seeing has been the Winston with the Zarya play, taking a page out of the APAC region of the Overwatch League, because that's been such a strong tank duo for a lot of those teams. And especially when you're going to pair it with a lot of that backline pressure coming through from either a Tracer or a Sombra, then it ends up working out really, really well because of those protected barriers that you can come in with your Zaryas to just get really aggressive in the backline.
No dilly-dallying. They're going to go ahead and move over to the higher ground, or at least they wanted to. Buck's going to have to nail a few shots for that to happen. Said they're going to change it up, go through the hotel, and force through onto the point. They managed to get Decod away from the fight so far, but there's a shot onto Fi. That's the first kill coming in. They will have the res available for Zolik, and he's going to do just that. But now they have to kite backwards and deal with this Winston who's up in their grill. Bubble will keep him alive for now, and Buck's going to have a repeat performance. Carefully, no one's showing themselves to his gun. The point's been contested this entire time. They've given up nearly 2/3 of the point while this has been going on, Rose.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that like Triumph has actually been able to get quite a bit of progress onto this first point, where all of that distraction coming through in the backline has really helped to be able to capture this first third of the pie. There's still a bit of ways to go, but we're seeing Triumph make some pretty good work of this point. Nano Boost coming out.
Nano Boost being traded, but it's the Pulse Bomb I'm looking at. Razor takes out Buck, removing him from the fight. Triumph correctly back off. They're happy to take that 61% and try not to feed any more ult charge over, because they know they're going to need both of those key members online before they try anything again.
Absolutely. You need to make sure that you're a full team before you walk back into the fray. So Triumph is going to smartly just concede this first point for now, regroup, and then come back into it. What I'm looking at, though, is how well Off has been able to make use of these bubbles, protecting Nick as they jump in, and then also getting so much charge to be able to dish out tons and tons of damage.
They're going to trade the Winstons back and forth once again, but Icy's found Buck. He's taken down the carry for Triumph, and this is going to be a problem for them. They need to get Icy out. He panic grabs it. Off will take him out, but there's enough bodies been removed from Triumph that Drifters should be able to hold on to this for a little bit longer and force back another attack. This is great for them. They get rid of all of the attackers, and they're waiting on those respawns. It's going to be quite punishing for them. Deco goes onto the back line with the Primal Raise. The Graviton online for Off. As the recall comes in, tries to predict where Razor's going to go, doesn't quite get the timing on it, and Fi cleans house before being shut down by Valen. But Triumph really struggling to get through to point A right now.
It's been really difficult because Drifters, this has been a bit of a difference in terms of what we've seen for them so far. In Route 66, the map looked so much closer than we got a chance to see on Ilios, and it's still coming through here. I said this one was going to be a doozy, and that's definitely coming to fruition.
Bob getting a bit of healing and damage boosting to kick things off. Off now taking all the aggression as he yeets the grab into the back line. Pulse Bomb's going to find Haruhi in the buckshot, the coach gun, taking out Decod. And Icy finally drops down, so point A will finally go over to Triumph, but that's a lot of the time bank burned. They're going to have to hope for a really fast streets to make up for it.
Yeah, you gotta give a lot of credit to Drifters for that phenomenal hold for first point. They were able to get a lot of resources out of Triumph's pockets, and they're also able to come in with a pretty close and aggressive hold here.
As expected, you weren't really staggered out with your deaths on that point A, which means you can reset faster and look for the choke, but they were deflected straight away by Triumph, so they might not be able to get as close as they want to. If they win the first fight, they can still take control of that pivotal territory, though.
Yeah, definitely going to be able to do that, as we do have to see Lep try to fly away very, very quickly. But this has been really great stuff coming in from Decod. Look at how well they're able to play the game when they're actually able to play the game. They're
basically trading Winston jumps onto the back line, committing resources every time. It's whose dive can find more value than the other, and Haruhi's able to take out Valen, so that's not going to work. Great stick to punish Lep, but protected barrier came in just in time from Off to keep him up. That might be the difference maker in this fight right now. That isn't until Fi and Decod just completely make me eat my words as they jump back into the fight and start racking up kills like it's nobody's business. 2 minutes 10 remaining on the clock for them. And they're going to hold him on this S-bend, but there's Off again, coming in behind, blocking the damage with the shield. He's incredibly high energy. There's no support coming in for him. He will finally drop.
This has been a really, really good hold from Drifters as well, and they also get the staggers as Nick is the last to fall. Triumph, they have a couple of resources moving into this next fight, but honestly, Drifters, the way that they've been able to play this defense has been absolutely stellar. You've seen Razor just be a huge distraction in the backline, as well as just Icy being able to chunk down everybody that tries to jump the backline now. Drifters is playing a very, very good defensive game at the moment.
Not defensive enough for Fi. You force out that early. They get the stick, but they're not able to find the kill. Frying out the pulse bomb. Graviton Surge inside of the bubble. Not much support coming in for his teammate. But Valen forgot about Bob. What are you doing, Fi? Finding his second kill. Make that a third as he takes out Lep from his res. 1 minute remaining now for Drifters, and they're not even on the home stretch of point B yet, Rose.
And look at where Drifters is holding. This positioning coming in from Drifters has been so good for their defensive game, because they're able to just kind of watch every single angle where they're jumping in. Look at that coach gun that came through from Fi just to be able to knock Nick back onto the cart. It's really, really good stuff coming in from Drifters.
Yeah, that coach gun just gave him the confidence to play that far forward. Nick gonna get punished. Not quite though. He's able to get the heals, dives back in again. Graviton Surge doesn't find anyone, but it will split the fight. But it's enough for Triumph to walk this one in. They are going to be able to get point B as they move towards the last stage of King's Row.
Yeah, but look at how much time Drifters was able to eat off the clock. There's really a minute and 45 seconds left for Triumph to get through. They have a nano boost. They might be able to get this Valkyrie online for the next push as well, but you can see Decod trying to take advantage of all the sleeps coming through.
Round on his corner. Nano boost online. Valen's found the back angle with the pulse bomb. Goes straight for the Ana. Not going to find anyone there. Protected barrier, I think, saved him out on that one yet again. Icy's been so good at protecting his backline, and, well, wasn't able to protect him that time as they're going to be taken out. Zolik will go down to the pressure of Valen. They're now moving on to the final stretch with 1 minute in the time bank, but this is where it can get difficult. Drifters can put out quite a strong hold here. They even move Fi over to the Widowmaker to try and abuse these long sight lines, and Valen's going to shut him down early.
It's going to be hard for Fi to be able to maintain some point presence here, so you're going to have to find influential value with the kills coming through from that Widowmaker, but you can see that Valen's keeping him busy.
Yeah, Valen's able to keep him at bay. They did lose a couple of members on the back line. Fi's changed up the angle, not in the window where it was being covered. Takes a few shots. We need him to find some picks here. A few dinks might help if he can find the damage for someone else to clean up. Another dink, no kill coming in. But it does make them slow down. There's the nano boosted Winston. Dinks in midair. Dodges out the Graviton Surge as well. They're committing everything over to Fi right now, and they've not been able to find him as the point pressure will still exist. They're going to walk it in. They need someone to touch right now. There's no beefy units on the board, just a sleeping Zarya, I believe, who will eventually be taken out. They need to get it to overtime, and they've done it. So now if they have a complete push of this map, they will only be able to force out a draw from Triumph, but the respawns are coming in fast. The pulse bomb's there to take out Decod. They're jumping on, they cannot find any headway, and Triumph will complete in overtime with 0 seconds remaining.
You mentioned something really important in that last team fight, and that's the fact that Drifters did get this into overtime. So they will be able to hopefully bring us into a winnable scenario for them. But Drifters honestly look so much better when we took a look at their defense. It's been so clean from Drifters in terms of being able to eat time off of the clock, get us into overtime, and really try to keep Triumph from actually having time left on this clock to complete this third point of King's Row. So Drifters, definitely looking at them right now for their setups for each of these team fights.
Yes, Drifter's going to be moving on to the offense this time around, and Triumph, they're sticking with more of the same. It's been really good for them. Throw Buck on this Ashe, let him sit at far. You see he's great at cutting away with the coach gun. He's getting the support he needs to stay alive as well. Why not let him run riot in this arena that is point A King's Row?
That's something that you gotta watch for these Winstons. Is the new age Winston, as I'll call it, has been a really different hero to actually have to play. The play style requires a lot more finesse in terms of making sure you're locking down every single route on the map. And I think that's something that Nick and Decod have been doing really, really well when they haven't been getting slept or hacked or anything like that coming through from the Sompras and the Annas respectively. So I think that Nick definitely has been able to play around all of that architecture of the map really, really well. But what's this? The OG, the Reinhardt coming through from Decod.
This is looking as close to GOATs as you could get right now, especially with the rotation they're taking. They're going over for the high ground. You got Razor on the Mei, which is basically a tank at this point. You may as well just say that that's the case. Fi on the Sombra, going to switch over to the Widowmaker. So, can immediately take out Buck as well. That's actually big. The res is coming early. Now's the time for Drifters. They have to try and capitalize on this one. Blocking out the Dynamite, that's great. Everything's crumbled apart here for Triumph as Drifters will now be able to walk onto point A and start taking control of this. Who's going to be able to help save these tanks? You've got no healers. They've got mobility, sure, and a protective barrier. But they're going to need more than that to stop the offensive that's coming in from Drifters.
Yeah, wow. This has been such a great rotation from Drifters, recognizing that this composition can just go in and fight head on whatever member of Triumph that they end up seeing in their sights. And especially with the reinforcements from Fi just getting body shots in the back, that's something that has really helped out for this composition and the strategy that Drifters has wanted to run. I loved that approach. I loved that rotation coming in from Drifters.
Do you know what I love even more, Rose? Buck changing over to the Echo. He's not going to be able to be ran over. If he can just play up in the skybox, how are they going to be able to take him out? Valen's only got a machine. Sorry, they've got Fi to try and take him out on the Widowmaker. But if you play around the corners, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a really great pick from Buck as well. You can see that we do have the, Valen kind of has those...
Oh, the shatter! Decod! He's man-moning it. He's allowed to play Reinhardt again, and he absolutely delivers, finding Off and Vigilante off the back end of that shatter. Buck, the whole point of this, mate, was that you were supposed to stay in the skybox, not go into a corridor with a Mei, and that's exactly why.
Yeah, you gotta be really careful about those Mei walls, just getting a chance to segment off members of the team. But my goodness, Decod hit a huge shatter. An absolute unit right there, and that's going to be able to bring them close to the second point, and with so much time on the clock, Trid.
Yeah, they go a lot more in their time back than what was found by Triumph. Icy's been hacked up and the Winston starts swinging, but it's a nano-boosted Echo gatting them down right now as Icy, Zolik, and Haruhi will feel the might of this character. Buck able to stop Drifters, and I think we may have spoken a little bit too soon about that time bank, Rose, because now I think Triumph want to try and entrench.
Yeah, and this is a really great position to do that from. Not only do you have the tactical advantage of the respawns being just a little bit closer for the defending team of Triumph, but you also still have Buck that's kind of been in the skies right now. Maybe thinking about switching it up just a little bit here, but you also have Off on the Diva that's been able to just kind of pepper down damage from above, and with just one shield on the team, you can't cover all of your angles with Reinhardt, so we'll see how Drifters decides to approach this point with the Blizzard too.
Yeah, and there's the... I believe he's going to be cloning himself into a Zarya right now to try and look towards that Graviton Surge, close to getting it. But there's the first grab coming out. Buck cannot escape, he cannot get away, but he's being pocketed by the Valkyrie. Wants to escape the freeze, will do just that. Shadow being dropped by Decod onto the point. Should clear it through as Fi will have no problem taking out Niche. They've changed over their adaptation once again. Fi going onto McCree should be able to help a lot more with this one, and they will get that final section of King's Row finally.
And with 4 minutes left on the clock, we spoke too soon again about Triumph trying to entrench in the defenses there, because this is now 4 minutes for Drifters to make it through this checkpoint. And if they have any time on the clock over a minute, they're going to be the only team that gets a chance to actually approach that first point once again. So looking at Drifters right now to be able to make something happen and bring us to another map.
This would be so honest if there wasn't a Mei. The EMP comes in. It's a huge one, finding all 6 members of Drifters, but they're not able to get any kills. Beat comes in afterwards from Zolik. Not soon enough to save Icy, and the Cowboy is going to say hi noon as he walks forward. Why? Lep, why did you do that? You knew what was about to happen.
And just the quick reset. The quick reset to come through.
Well, they're going to dance in. There's the snow globe on the point. Who's going to be able to walk forward and touch this one? I'm not quite sure. The wall blocks off Reinhardt as well. They need the Lucio to touch as Lep will be taken out by Vi. There's 3 minutes left, Rose. I don't see this going the way of Triumph. They will not be losing this map, provided the momentum stays up from Drifters. Great shadow there as well is enough. And Drifters cannot lose King's Row. It means we're guaranteed to see another map. But it's can they get a score on the board? Can they take this first map and start their campaign to coming back in this series?
We could see a reverse sweep here. We said at the top of this broadcast that Drifters was heavily favored in this match because we just didn't know the capabilities of this Triumph roster. And the fact that Triumph has been able to secure 2 map wins so far, it's amazing. It's amazing to see the Drifters come back right now.
Absolutely, and I think that's off the back of this this Reinhardt, or this, I keep joking around that it's like pseudo goats, but like it's really close to goats. And they're just sticking with this death ball that goes in. They want to try and brawl. They got Fi with the McCree now as a good adaptation to have instead of looking towards that Widowmaker. So on this offense, I expect them to do more of the same in Path, and Buck with the Junkrat might be a good solution for this one.
I was looking at the Junkrat and I just went, yes. I love seeing kind of like the classic defense come through here. There are a couple of odd pieces of the puzzle for Triumph's defense, but I think that when you take a look at Junkrat and its historic appearance on this map of King's Row, the defense has been where we've seen Junkrat the most often, and there's no secret why. Take a look at how well you're able to lock down the hotel so that Drifters can't really just necessarily go through there, but if they're going to take the same approach with this teleporter, ooh.
No, they're not changing off the Symmetra. They're going to keep on the Symmetra, teleport at the high ground. Buck's already found value on the Junkrat by taking out Razor, though. So now it becomes a little bit harder to push forward, but they have to try and commit in some capacity. Great anti-nade on the entry as well. The drop comes in too early, and they're just going to get rolled over. Great first defense from Triumph, but by virtue of this ridiculous time bank, they still got a long way to go.
Yeah, and Razor's going to be switching over to the Pharah. Recognizes that there's nothing on Triumph's side that can actually touch this Pharah. So as long as we don't see a ground Pharah get played here by Razor, there should be a really great opening for Drifters to come in and just take the third of the pie that they need to start the... Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Pause, champ. Pause, champ. Razor just being taken off by the Drunk. And there's no res. Buck going to move in with the Riptide. They're in a state of disarray, but they're not going to be able to follow up. Great tracking there. Icy being the one to finish that one off. But that could have been absolutely disastrous for Drifters, losing Razor that early. Slipped out of the sky! Vigilante! What are you? Are you even human at this point? And Razor ends up offing himself with his own damage? This should be Triumph's fight to win. Buck comes in with the kills to tip the scales in his balance. Vigilante's now sitting on that nano boost, ready to go. It's the panic button. Drifters back off. They realize they've got 1 minute 30. They do not want to feed ults even further over the Triumph.
No, they don't. 1 minute 30 left on the clock. As that time bank ticks down as well, we're entering into the point where Drifters really only has 2 more attempts at this in order to actually get a map win. And wow, Triumph is actually, they have the ultimates online and they're going in aggressive.
Yeah, they have to come out big here. This fight goes fast, and Drifters will have an opportunity to come back into it. They've not popped any of their ultimates, but they're working towards their own. They're going to have Bomb, Nano Boost online. They've got the Pulse Bomb from Thigh. This is it. You have the opportunity. This is your best shot at getting a score on the board. Let's see you do it, Drifters.
Yeah, Drifters wants to be able to start their run here, run the gambit, run the pool. Let's make sure that you can actually do the reverse sweep that we're kind of hoping to get a chance to see here, because who doesn't love more Overwatch? But, you know, I love the Diva choice from Icy, but here comes the EMP.
Great, Zolic's been grounded. Razor doesn't have the support he needs. He's been given the Nano Boost, but Decod's gone down to the Riptire. Fi finds 2, both supports with the Pulse Bomb. That's absolutely huge. Fi finds a 3rd. He refuses to lose this map. He wants to go for the W as he's cleaning house right now. Razor forced away, jumped out of the sky by the Winston, will get the safety. The respawns have to come in fast for Triumph.
They have to come in fast, but there's a lot keeping them at bay right now, especially that Diva Bomb that just got thrown in by Icy, and then follow up with a Barrage too.
Razor, he's killed himself again with the damage. He's unable to stay alive. Buck under a lot of pressure. Zolic's been removed from the fight right now as they're on the point, still trying to burn out time. Pile Driver comes in, takes out Harahu. There's no healers on the point right now for Drifters, but they've got bodies. That's what counts. Fi, close to the pulse bomb, has to go in here, finds the target, throws it out, will not hit. The Pile Driver comes in afterwards. Vigilante on the Moira is keeping Icy at bay by taking him out. This is absolute anarchy, but they step off the point. Drifters, they get a map on the board.
Get a map on the board, and they start their journey to a potential reverse sweep over Triumph. Trade, we're going to a map 4. Oh my goodness.
Map 4, we didn't think we were going to see it, but we're moving over to an assault-type map will be our next stop. But wow, what a performance there. Fi had to come out clutch there at the end, and he did exactly that, finding both supports with a pulse bomb, then following up with kills. Fantastic play, and it means Drifters will not go out winless when it comes to the map score. They will be the only team in the quarterfinals in that position, because every other team got 3-0 to my knowledge.
Yeah, and that's going to be super impressive, especially when you take a look at the general trend, the track record of both of these teams. Both Drifters and Triumph in August Contenders Trials went undefeated. And, you know, even though we said, yeah, Drifters, they're probably the team that has the most synergy going into this matchup, Triumph definitely been sticking it to them, and it's been much, much closer than the scoreline suggests.
Okay, let's have a look at the bracket. We'll give you an update on what's going on, because we said a lot of these matches have been finished already. There you have it. Slept On, 3-0 Kratos. Odyssey, 3-0 Karasuno. Square One, 3-0 Revival. They're all moving through to the semifinals. So the winner of this series will go on to face Slept On in the semifinals, and they are a formidable opponent, Rose.
They really are. Slept On is the winner of the Contenders July tournament, and with a lot of incredible coaching behind their back as well, Slept On has been an incredibly dominant force in the Tier 2 scene for a while. So I slept on a little bit in that tournament for sure, but I am really looking forward to seeing the conclusion or potential conclusion of the series. But we still have one more map. At least.
Absolutely, and that pick is going to go over to Triumph. They're going to have their map pick moving on to the Assault map type. We're going to go to a quick break, but before we do that, thank you very much to Frontier Communications for sponsoring this tournament, and check out www.frontier.com to learn about availability in your area. Also in the chat, be using !Frontier. We'll see you after the break. Let's see if Fi can put the team on his back and bring him back in this series.
Speed freaks devour speed. Yummy, yummy speed. Speed freaks have gig service internet for just $74.99 a month plus taxes and fees. Let us guide the speed freak in you.
If everybody had an ocean across the USA, then everybody be surfing like California, yeah. You'd see them wearing the a baddie, a righteous sandals too. A bushy blonde hairdo. Surfing USA. Baby, I'm surfing. Surfing USA.
Overwatch is different now that the meta's changing every week. We need a few ground rules in order to survive. Rule number 5 is, always take time to reset your mental. That time in between leaving spawn and arriving to the next fight is your chance to take a deep breath. Getting tilted in teamfight after teamfight could cost you the game.
Continually losing that Widow duel? Did you mute your team to avoid the cries asking you to swap? Maybe you're just feeding. Swap to another character. Now the enemy team is feeding you.
You are blessed on this broadcast to be looking at the only series in our quarterfinals of the Feed Fest presented by FiOS from Frontier. I'm going to nail that every time. It's just a lot of words to remember and a lot of Fs as well. But you're blessed with the only series that's gone ahead and made it to map number 4. We're not seeing some free Overwatch here today, unlike in the other quarterfinals. That is off the back of some impressive compositions from Drifters when it came around to their Kings Row offense, but a standout performance from Fi on the Tracer, who's been finding tremendous value in these clutch moments.
I think it has a lot to do with the compositional switch up that we saw from Drifters, especially when you take a look at their first attack attempt with that rotation around the back of King's Row just to be able to go up to the high ground and then smack everybody that they saw on Triumph in the face to be able to bring us into a 4-minute time bank to be able to capture just 1/3 of the point for Drifters to be able to take that map. So super, super awesome to see Drifters really kind of step it up a little bit in the series and just get better and better over the course of time.
Let's take a look at our next map. It's going to be Volskaya Industries. That is the choice of Triumph for the first time this series. Of course, up until that previous map, they were in the lead and they were undefeated. So we move on to Volskaya. One hero that comes to mind, probably going to be either the Ashe or the Widowmaker. So that's 2 heroes, I lied. And it's probably going to come down to the likes of Buck and Fi having these duels on point A.
I agree with that 100%. Like, especially when you took a look at Fi's Widowmaker and how phenomenal it's gotten a chance to be, especially when we looked at it on Ilios. Like, yes, there were some duels that were happening that Fi didn't always win, but there were some duels that Fi was able to win. And when you take a look at Widowmaker on this map of Volskaya, you're looking for just one pick. If you are on the attack, you're looking for that one opener, that one little bit that's going to give you that window of opportunity to actually move in and take advantage of the pick that you get. A little bit different when you're taking a look at the Widowmaker on defense, but we'll see whether or not the Widowmaker does end up coming out here, as Ashe would be a pretty good choice too.
Absolutely, and Ashe was finding a little bit more value in the double shield meta because you could weave that dynamite over the top. But without those shields, maybe it's a better solution for the Widowmaker to just take the direct shots. Be interesting to see. But finally it happened, Rose. The Chonky Boy is finally here. Roadhog has graced us with their presence. And he's been running riots around Q, as we've already said. This is the first time we'll see him in this series. So if you get caught now, that's a death sentence at this point.
Yeah, the whole combos are gonna be coming through. We're gonna go fishing with this one, as we do see Icy on the Roadhog with that hook ready to go. And I'm super excited about seeing this hero choice come through, especially because with all of the mobility, well, gotta be careful if you're gonna get hacked.
Yeah, so we're acting a little bit there like he's the sleeper OP right now. If you get hacked, you are still a walking ult battery for the other team. That's still the downside of Roadhog. Thankfully, Fi is able to do his job and he clears off away from the point. They need to be careful they don't give away one tick though. That's quite bad considering how much control you have over this map right now, but they're going to let it happen anyway. And Triumph back off for now. Decod finds a follow-up kill on the back line. As he takes out Buck again, who's really struggling to find his footing. That's a greedy resurrection coming in from Lep, and it was punished correctly by Drifters. The hook didn't even have to land from Icy to make that work.
No, I think that was just, again, a little bit of a stun out there in terms of just making sure that Resurrect doesn't actually go off. And the reset has to come through from Triumph. They can't just continue to throw bodies at the point and hope that something's going to work here. Even though they did get that first point, they need to regroup. And Valiant is looking right now at trying to just make sure this Roadhog from Icy's doesn't get value.
He's going to find both the supports with the EMP. Great position there. Also catching Razor, so he's not going to join the fight as well. Bob's on the point, on the perfect angle to contest the recontest. And Buck clears through him with the help of Nick and the rest of the team. There's that biotic grenade. Sayonara later. The tank line putting in work for Triumph and getting them point A.
Triumph is just sticking to what they know best, and that's going to be that Sombra dive. And something that I'm really been impressed with is that it can be difficult to run the Sombra dive sometimes, especially because it takes precision coordination, especially when you want to be able to make use of the hacks coming through from Valen. But we've recognized there's a lot of key communication happening when those hacks do come through that Nick and Off can follow it up.
Which is even more impressive when you think about it, Rose, that they've added 2 new players to their team recently in the form of Off and Vigilante, I believe. So it's even more impressive they're able to pull off a coordinated dive under those circumstances, and the dive keeps coming. They're on point B. They've cleared them off. They popped the Primal Rage. Fi can't find a look into this angle right now because he's being bashed around by the Winston, who's going to return back to the point. I think it's Decod who's contesting for them right now, but he's shot out of the sky. Wait, how did he get cancelled out of that? Was he hacked? Yes, he was hacked out of the pile driver, and it will shut him down. Valen will find more kills, but Fi, finally back on the point, won't get taken out by the bomb, as it's still so back and forth without a definitive win. And that's 2/3 of the pie being taken. There will be another contest from Drifters, but how long can they last?
Oh, it's going to be really, really close here. Decod does get slipped on point, but nobody's able to touch. Body blocking there.
It wasn't even just body blocking as well. I think that, like, Harahi and Fi, which is being super cautious, they know if they walk out onto that point, it's a death sentence for them. But they need to be alive to help win the fight in the first place. So I think even if they walked forward there and contested for a second to buy some time to get them onto the point, they would lose anyway. So it's kind of a catch-22 there for the stragglers around on the side of that point.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a catch-22 where you don't want to throw your body on the point because you know you need to be alive for the actual recontest to come through, but you also need to be able to pop the overtime, and it's just really, really hard when the dive was coming through so aggressively from Triumph. Triumph is already a very aggressive team, setting the pace of a lot of these team fights by initiating the dive off of the back of key hacks from Valen, as well as just quick kills coming through from Buck. And I think that that's something that's been catching Drifters a little bit off guard. We'll see what they decide to do on their attack push, but I don't see Triumph really staying away from the formula that they've created. It's been successful so far.
Yeah, they're more than happy to stay on this one. I think we might see Valen pay a little bit more attention to these defensive health packs because they did let control of Mega go over to Triumph on their defense. So I'd expect them to be able to correct that mistake because it did allow them to sustain more in those fights on point A. Valen's hunting on the back line though, so he might not be able to get that Mega control, but he's going to trade it for some early kills potentially here. He's looking for a hack. Who's his target going to be? Has to be the Mercy. He's going for it. Can't fly away, can't drift away, needs some support coming in from his team. Not going to come in time, but finally, Icy turns around to help the Mercy and he gets back to point. So it does nothing to burn time. They lost Nick in that engagement as well. That's not a good start for Triumph.
No, that's going to be a really quick snowball effect too if Drifters can just kind of continue to take advantage of the opening that they have. With no main tank, you can't have a dive.
Yeah, and Razor sweeps around to find off once he was DMX as well. The Decoy's going to jump forward, forces them away, can't get control of that Mega. Valen goes hunting for Razor, but the point nearly given entirely over. Someone has to go in and touch. It's going to be Nick this time around. They're going to have the follow-up from the Wrecking Ball. The supports aren't in a position to do all the healing they need to. Buck misses a couple of shots. Unlike him, he's not able to find the kills as now Valen goes down. It is looking like it's pretty over right now for Triumph as they struggling to get those respawns in. Great shots there. Valen comes back after the res and finds Icy off the back of a headshot. Buck able to deal with this aggression. He might get environmental here if he's not too careful. That's exactly what happens. Valen goes down as well. So after an elongated fight, Drifters will capture point A and move on to point B.
Yeah, and look at the ultimate economy bank that Drifters has been able to build up throughout those team fights. They really only needed the Primal Rage, the Decod Pop to be able to get the kills, and look at this pace that they're setting.
Yeah, they're moving on to it quite fast. That bubble will only last so long. Buys them enough time to get jump pads back. Vigilante's gone down to Razor. Will drop before the Nano Boost comes online. Expose himself. Great EMP to stem this bleeding that's happening all over, but it's a huge one. As Drifters jumping back on. Zolik will be taken out by back line as Off will find him. Icy with that Graviton Surge. He's hacked up. He's ready to use it though. Might find an opportunity. He's finding a target. Gonna grab. Not finding anyone. The Decod will be burned away by Buck, so they're starting to see Triumph get control of this one. As they're moving away, Dynamite thrown into the back line, Razor sweeping through onto Buck, Fi trying to land these shots. The coach guns out of the point to safety, and Triumph have done enough to stop the momentum.
Triumph came back in the nick of time, and I'm not even kidding when I say that because like Nick actually came in at the nick of time in order to actually help out with this defense. So Triumph has been able to stem the bleeding, as you will, and just make sure that they have the opportunity to continue through eating off this time on the clock. We're about even now. Triumph was able to finish Volskaya with 3 minutes and 56 seconds on the clock, and Drifters is hoping to accomplish the same feat in just about the same amount of time.
Great coach gun again from Fi. Tries to mitigate that dive. Bob's onto the point already. Off taking a nap right now as after he used his shield, so he should be fine, but it's Vigilante under pressure. Fi will throw the Dynamite up in, but he's taken out by Buck. He's able to stay alive. Hack coming through onto Decod. He's going to follow up as well. Nick here in the face of the supports as Fi will take him out, but yet again, Triumph have done enough. They go for the fast resets as well. Fi jumping off the edge of the map. Razor's still lingering around his back though. He's trying to find some ult charge or a pick. Buck does enough once again.
Hopefully just getting a little bit of ult charge here to be able to build up to that pulse bomb once again, but I feel like as the way that Triumph has been able to play this with a little bit of setup and just like the stability that comes through, the confidence that comes through from clutching it out in the last team fight to be able to stop the momentum from Drifters, Triumph is playing a whole different game right now just to be able to keep Drifters at bay, and the way that they can cycle through this EMP is going to really help Triumph to just kind of keep control of this point.
Valen's in position for that EMP. He's going to catch him as they go into reinforce, finding 4 members. Bob was able to escape the Anarchy. No, he wasn't. Caught on the edge, and he was anti-naded as well. Nick thankfully jumping back as he was hacked up, so he's in the realm of safety right now. Icy and Valen will have themselves brought back by the respective mercies as Nick goes hunting to make sure it does not happen again. Zolik taken out, as has Haruhi, so there's no supports for Drifters right now, and they will begin to crumble. 2 minutes 30 left on the clock. Triumph are not letting go of this point.
Triumph don't want to let go of this point because they want to just shut it out here. Remember that we are playing a best of 5 first to 3 series, so if Triumph is able to clutch it out now and eat away at this 2-minute time bank that Drifters has left, Triumph takes this series, and there's no extra innings that we have to go to. So Triumph, they want to clutch it out now, and it's going to be off the back of this primal rage coming through from Nick, as well as this nano boost, and maybe some of those mines coming through just to be able to crowd control. But Buck, again, finding an early pick here, forcing out the resurrect so early as Valen just follows it up.
Yeah, great play there to take out Haruhi. Yeah, just end this fight. End this fight. You don't need to fight this anymore. You got a nano boost out of Vigilante. Just don't feed him any more ult charge to let him come back. You're going to run back into this with even greater ults. The Valkyrie had to be popped there as they're picking up follow-up kills. This is a poor decision from Drifters. That disengage should have been a lot quicker and a lot more decisive.
That's just another 30 seconds off of the clock as well. And when you take a look at how long it's been taking for Drifters to actually approach this point, Trade, we're approaching last fight territory where this might be the last chance that Drifters actually gets in order to have a cohesive push with all 6 members.
And Valen's going to have an EMP for it, Rose. He's got that online. To time that incorrectly, still going to roll. Well, great start there. Razor finds free with the EMP and opens up the floodgates for Drifters to come storming in. You talked about it, Rose. You wanted that winning fight, and this might be it. Valen getting ready with an EMP of his own. He's in the middle of all of them. Pops it, finding 6 members as the power driver comes in from off, and he's able to shut it all down. That was the fight for Drifters, and it's all gone Pete Tong as they will clean up. 30 seconds left. It's going to be a rush. Drifters have to touch with urgency.
That pile driver, though, that had my jaw drop to the floor, Trid. Oh my goodness, off came is so clutch, and it's often off of the back of these amazing anti-bio nades coming through from Vigilante. Again, such seamless inclusion of both Vigilante and off into this Triumph roster. And now Drifters, they've got less than 10 seconds. They have to touch, and they're already so low.
Bombs in their face. Nano boost goes out. Nick finds both supports on the engage. Icy and Razor will able to deal with the damage dealers, but we'll see who's more important at keeping these tanks alive. I can guarantee you it's going to be the support. Hacked out of the resurrection there. Lip unable to bring another member back, but enough kills have come through. And with the spawn advantage as well, I do not see Drifters being able to cap this one. It's looking a lot like we're going to see Triumph in the next round of this tournament. They just need to take out the last 2 stragglers, and jobs are good. And Triumph, they move on to face Slept On in the semifinals.
Wow, what a match. What a series, Trid. This was so close. Like, the score line, even the fact that we were able to go to 4 maps should be enough to kind of let you know how close this really was. But like, can we just give Lep some praise right now? Stealing 3 out of 4 of the play of the games.
He's been an absolute machine right now. We could joke around and say that they're a little bit weighted towards the supports, and we could try and talk down some of the success of Lep, but it'd be hard to. He's been performing well. He's had a few greedy reses on Volsky. We're not going to completely forget those, and he was punished appropriately for them. But all in all, I agree, Necro. He's been playing fantastically this series so far.
It's been everybody on Triumph too. Just like, I want to shout out Vigilante once again. Just the support line of Triumph has been able to play so cleanly, so beautifully. And when you take a look at how Vigilante has been using these bionades to help enable the DPS of Triumph to actually get a chance to go into the backline and take these dives and get those final blows and get those kills, it's been really clean and precise coming through. So great inclusions, great pickups from Triumph to include Vigilante and off onto their roster.
Yeah, I imagine this roster is going to do well. Maybe not necessarily in this tournament altogether, but they can keep moving forward over to Contenders, which is up next week. Let's take a look at a replay package from the whole of this series, just to refresh you if you're joining in. So it started all off on Ilios, and this came down to a little bit of willow dueling before we put away the rifles and we moved over to the Sombra, which became more of a mainstay as we went throughout the series.
Sombra was definitely a really clutch inclusion for both of these teams in terms of just making sure you have those EMPs online and also getting key hacks to enable the dive.
Yeah, and that dive was a fantastic. You've already spoke about it already with Vigilante and Off being able to seamlessly transition into Triumph and facilitate these really strong dives with Nick. And I feel like that aggression caught Drifters off guard a lot of the times. And dive takes a lot of coordination from teams. And quite frankly, this is the opposite of what we expected Triumph with the new additions. We expected them to be a little bit weaker at the coordination, especially in the beginning. But no. They're able to execute flawlessly and take down Drifters, who people would have had a lot of expectations for this tournament.
Well, I think the other thing as well is just the amount of aggression that we saw coming out from Triumph, particularly when you take a look at how Nick and Off were able to play super in tandem together and just kind of jump into the backline. You know, we mentioned at Ilios that we were trading backlines, but that all changed quite a bit when you actually had a lot of that backline pressure getting removed by, you know, seeing Zolik really protect the backline of Drifters, and then also seeing, you know, Vigilante and Lep play together super beautifully as well to kite away some of that damage.
Yeah, they've able to really come together into their own and have this dominant series. This is where it came back for Drifters, though. We're looking at King's Row, and it was off the back of them bringing that composition we didn't expect to see. A lot of Reinhardt coming in, pseudo goats I joked around with it being, and able to jump in and find these big rotations where they forced away high ground from Triumph and then crush them from above.
Yeah, that was such a clean rotation coming through from the attack for Drifters, and you know, you could see just like every single map, every single set, every single round, Drifters just got closer and closer to being able to get that reverse sweep. But for Triumph, they put on a fantastic show, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds for this roster.
Yeah, there's a lot to see for them. They're going to be going up into our semi-final next up, going against Slept On. We're going to go to a quick break. That's going to wrap up all of the quarterfinals. So when we come back, we're going to bring you our first semi-final of the night. But before we do, a huge thanks to Frontier Communications for putting on the tournament. Go over to their website to find out coverage in your area. We will see you on the other side of this break.
Speed Freaks do everything. All at once, whenever they want. Speed Freaks have gig service internet for just $74.99 a month plus taxes and fees. Let us guide the Speed Freak in you.
Overwatch is different now that the meta's changing every week. We need a few ground rules in order to survive. Rule number 1 is, always be ready to hit that emote key. Did you just nail the perfect shot? Take a moment. Rub it in the other team's face. Everyone needs a moment to shine. Which brings me to rule number 2. Don't glow for too long or you'll get what's coming. Be safe out there.
Maybe this time charging into the team fight will work. Oh, you should have stuck with your team. It worked last time. But don't worry, the enemy team says thanks. Feed Fest. If there's a place to try that trick play, it's here. Register and tune in for the best that Tier 2 Overwatch has to offer.
Overwatch is different now that the meta is changing every week. We need a few ground rules in order to survive. Rule number 3 is click heads. The quickest way to kill is a headshot. Move your mouse over to where the head is going and click it. Click it good. Headshots cause maximum damage and are more likely to turn the tide of your game. Boom. Easy as that. Click heads, that's how you win.
Welcome back to the Valiant Feed Fest, presented by FiOS from Frontier. My name's Trid, this is Rose. We just had our quarter-final match that we were covering on the broadcast, and now we are looking towards the top 4. We have our first matchup that's going to be on our screens with us in the first semi-final, and then we're going to hand over to ZP and Avast, who will handle the second semi-final of the night. But if you're joining in for the first time, let's take a look at the bracket and remind you how things stand right now.
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of 3 Overwatch happening across the board for our quarterfinals, but we were blessed with the 4-map series on our broadcast, which was Drifters versus Triumph. Triumph taking a 3-1 victory over Drifters to move on to our semifinals versus Slept On. But we're going to be covering Odyssey versus Square One for our very first semifinal match of the day. And now that we're in top 4 Trid, this is where prize pool really starts to come into play. We have $5,000 that these teams are playing for. First place gets $3,500, second place gets $1,000, and third place gets $500. So you don't want to be in that 4th place spot.
Absolutely, and the team we're going to be taking a look at today, Rose, or the matchup we're going to particularly focus on right now, is Odyssey versus Square One. And that is going to be an interesting one because Odyssey performed a lot better in the most recent contenders bracket than Square One did. Odyssey came in 2nd place, losing out to eventual winners Slept On. We're on the other side of the bracket, so we could potentially see a July bracket contenders final when we get round to it. But Square One stands in their way. This is a Square One that's going to be running on full cylinders from the off. They not, as far as I'm aware, ExoRaf has not had a tree cut down in his village or wherever he lives in his favela, and losing the internet connection that he once loves, or the power that he loves. So we will see a full strength Square One. This will make it a little bit closer, but I still have to give the edge to Odyssey right now. They seem like they've definitely been in a better position to capitalize right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. The first map of the night, though, is going to be Nepal, which has a lot of curveballs that it throws into the mix, as we mentioned on our first broadcast for our first match of the night. Control has a lot of ebbs and flows to it when you take a look at every individual stage, how you can play different compositions and also have to have different play styles in order to find success. And I feel like Nepal is kind of that quintessential when you take a look at it. When you have Sanctum, you also have your village, and you also have the ability to play on Shrine, which is a very unique architecture and structure to all of the other different maps that Nepal does have and its purview. So really looking forward to seeing what these teams roll out with. Since we didn't get a chance to see their quarterfinals, this will be our first time seeing these teams on this new patch.
As a reminder as well, it is always going to be first to 3 maps. So win 3 maps in this series, you will go ahead and secure yourselves a spot in the final. And of course, while we kick off on the predetermined map of Nepal, from here on out, the loser will pick the following map. So it does allow for some preference as the series goes on. You can also see the map rotation as well. It's going to go from here to Escort, Hybrid, Assault, and then we're going to close it off on Control if we need to go that far. Remember, as Rose said, 4 maps was a blessing. To go to 5, I feel like we're ascending to sainthood at that point, Necro.
For sure. I mean, we just more Overwatch, please. Absolutely support tier 2 and definitely get yourselves a nice seat, because we have got a doozy of another match for you, and I can't wait to see how Odyssey is going to play this particular match against Square One. 2 veteran teams in the scene. Square One has a lot in their pocket. We take a look at ExoRaf is going to be a part of this roster, and also very different strategies coming through from both of these teams in terms of how they want to play this game.
Let's address the Roadhog in the room right now. Rhino is going to be rolling out on that from the off. And Roadhog's been causing a little bit of difficulty for a lot of people recently, just because of the changes have made main tanks a lot weaker. And at the same time, Roadhog got some buffs as well. So expect to see more of that. Already under pressure as they rotate to the point. Square One up in the skybox with the Pharah has been a great choice. Now the Immortality field is going to be taken out. It's so easy for them to get down low and deal damage, but they're having to fight through all of the healing coming out from Rack Attack and Lucamino. They take out Speed with a well-placed Doomfist. That's 3 kills on the board for Odyssey and control of the point. Great start for this team.
So there's the really big difference in play style here from both of these teams and the compositions that they're running. Odyssey is running a high pick potential, which means that they are able to capture kills very easily with either, a one clip coming in from the Tracer, a hook combo coming in from the Roadhog, or potentially even just like a one punch coming in from the Doomfist. But what Square One needs to do is they have to play a lot more patiently and a little bit more safely in order to actually get set up for this point.
Oh, Milky Man, your hook is so big. He's moved over to that Roadhog. The right click comes in from Rhino. There's not much they can do about it. And Malfell doesn't allow Milky Man to play Overwatch. It doesn't matter if you were a main tank player, Milky Man. You can change from the Reinhardt to the Roadhog. You still get treated like a main tank and you're not allowed to play.
That's definitely Malthal's specialty. When you take a look at Odyssey and the way that they play, Malthal is definitely one of the playmakers for the team, setting the pace of every single match and engagement in terms of being able to just go in and get these quick picks.
Great Graviton Surge on the entry. This should be a clean fight. That's some high altitude rain coming in from King. He does find two, which might be enough here for Square One to contest the point. He picks up a follow-up kill, moving into the face of Rack Attack. Right there with the directs, should be an easy pick up. And King and the rest of Square One gonna go ahead and get the flip at 68%.
Well, now that Square One has control of this point, they have setup potential here. And Square One's a team that does really, really well with setup. So I'm looking at just making sure that Square One can rotate through these ultimates and set the pace of these fights, just to be able to kind of keep these angles on lock so that Odyssey can't go in and clean up shop.
We're gonna miss out for the anti-nade on Rhinos. Gonna shut him down. Bold decision to pop that while you can't get any healing, my friend. But the Immortality Field was there and able to deflect away. Milky Man not able to fight. Speed finding a kill onto Dove with the High Noon, and he's just gonna roll through again. So that's a one fight for Square One. And these bio nades coming in from Exoraf have been absolutely pivotal for shutting down Rhino.
They really have been. Rhino hasn't been able to get enough healing in order to play the aggressive Roadhog that they want to with these picks, and Malthal's gonna get chunked down as well. But this is a great target priority as well as positioning from Exoraf to place these bio nades and just enable the team of Square One to follow up on these kills.
Try to milk Vulcan for all of the time they could get. Okay. Well, thankfully there's no full damage in Overwatch, otherwise that would have been an interesting descent. King will come back to life like the revived pigeon he is, now going over the top with that hook back down to the earth. Won't find the kill, the pocket is there from Angelic to keep him up. Zingon, another barrage, great sleep, and he's so lucky that rocket missed, otherwise that Nano Doom could have wreaked some havoc afterwards. There's the Graviton Surge up on the point. Going to lock it all together. The flip does come in for Odyssey, but Square One are in a position for a retake. It isn't until Speed gets taken out. So he might have a little bit more time with this one, and it might buy enough for Odyssey to come back with respawns.
Yeah, might buy enough time for Odyssey to come back with the respawns, even though the flip is coming through. The flip's gonna go right back for Square One, and we do have some time on the clock. Odyssey's gonna have to be able to come back to this one really fast, though. Good thing it's gonna be Dove as the last line of defense to come back through, but Luke Mino can't touch point.
Also, Lucamino, your Baptiste dying late and getting staggered out in his final fight. It is far from ideal. Self-destruct, looking to ground someone. Finds me an Exoraf. Vulcan's bomb has booted down the door for Odyssey to come back into this one. They need to get the flip though. Someone needs to be touching point. King will take out Rhino, so they're missing that point presence they require. They have to deal with Angelic, who's popped the Valkyrie right now, and he will be able to sustain through a lot of the aggression coming in. I don't think Dove is going to be enough. Now, finally, Lucamino's come back. He will have the Immortality Field, but they got away with the Resurrection as well. That's huge to bring the Roadhog back. The follow-up damage is there from King. I don't see Odyssey coming back into this one unless there's some girthy picks coming in from Malfell. Gonna use that Meteor Strike to lock down on the top, but Speed takes him as he returns back to the ground. Moving on to the point, just a lone Tracer with the tanks. Pulse Bomb thrown out, Brute finds a couple. Dove taking out Speed with the Pulse Bomb. Removes that menace from the field as they're now looking to remove Brute. They've still not touched Angelic. He's been alive this entire fight and he gets away with another Resurrection, Rose.
Oh my goodness, this has just been Angelic going absolutely ham with these resurrects and being able to bring these reinforcements back into the fight, but that might have been the difference maker in order to actually seal the deal for this first point.
I don't think there was a might about it, Rose. Angelic got two or three reses off in that fight. Perma output of healing and damage boost to his entire team and evaded all damage and threat constantly. That was phenomenal play from Angelic.
And Angelic is one of the linchpins of Square One, has a veteran of the team, really understands how the coaching, how the play style of this team really functions. And I said, Square One's a team that does a lot of good work with some setup. And once they got control of the point, they were able to play the defense. And that's the defensive game that Square One wants to be able to play with. Now we're moving on to Shrine, where this Pharah is going to be able to reign supreme once again in these skies. But you got to play with some setup first, make sure the Pharah is in position and then able to rain those rockets down.
I bet they're kicking themselves that they got this rotation of Nepal. It might have been a different story if they went over the Sanctum. It's King, now going to be up in the sky. Speed's already lost his life. Great first pick from Malthel. Nothing expected less from him. They will rotate back round to the point. Got control of it as well, so Square One are going to aggress onto them. There's that setup that they're looking for, just taken away from them straight away. Rhino, now on the flank with the hook, wants to find a target. Oh, he's just going to miss out on that one and not find the connection he needs. It's fine. His team's doing all the work for him anyway. He can just continue to be a walking ult battery while they shred through the entirety of Square One and maintain control of the point.
Maintaining control, but we saw this before where Odyssey was able to get up to that 85% marker and then Square One just took it right back. So Odyssey wants to be able to play this one flawlessly, still looking at Malthel right now to create those engagement opportunities for the rest of the team to be able to follow up with some damage. And look at Vulcan, just highlighter charged at the moment to be able to chunk down whoever's going to be walking through from Square One.
Well, if it's not the burst from Vulcan, it's going to be the Doomfist that's ascended, waiting for them to come into it. But a nano boost can exemplify that. They've lost the Tracer already as the Graviton Surge locks them into play. Zarya at high energy is always going to shred through, trading back and forth still. But Malthel on the Doomfist takes out Angelic, the menace that is that Mercy for Square One, to continue to extend their lead up into the latter half of the percentage.
So we do have Malthel with this Meteor Strike online, and something that we gotta say is like Malthel really understands how to play Doomfist. It's his best hero. So looking at these punches and looking at this engagement opportunity from the Meteor Strike to make something happen here.
Gets back to safety after a little bit of tech. There's going to be the Pulse Bomb taking out Milky Man. Dove doesn't seem to miss these right now. He's been on a good position. Resurrection used on Milky Man to bring him back. How is King getting dropped by a Malthel? That's confusing right now for Pharah to lose to a Doomfist like that. Malthel repositions. We're getting into the final sections of this map now. This should be the last fight for Square One. One pick should end it all for him.
Oh, gonna come through for speed.
Well, the High Noon's there. They're moving into position with the barrage through the window. They didn't touch Rose. They did not touch. We're going over the Sanctum, and I think that makes it a little bit difficult for this Pharah Mercy combo to persevere.
This Pharah has been able to do a lot of work, but you're right about this being a bit of an issue for the Pharah, where I don't know if Sanctum's quite where you want to actually run the Pharah. So looking at those close quarters and looking at how well, how low that skybox actually is, I just don't think that's going to be the right call here. But we are seeing some interesting picks come through for the side of both of these teams. We'll see if they actually end up sticking as we do get the countdown timer to get out of the gates. But Square One's running Orisa and Sigma.
Did they not get the memo about the patch, Rose?
I don't think they did, Trin.
Okay, Orisa Sigma it is. Let's see how that pans out for them against the Wrecking Ball and the Zarya combo. Starts off pretty strongly. Rhino not finding the kills he wants to, but the dive's so good that Exo-Wrath on one of his signature heroes really struggling to find any footing on this one.
Yeah, and with the Immortality Field as well, that's going to just really help to solidify the lead that Odyssey has at the moment.
Yep, they're going to get that first cap quite handedly. So maybe Orisa Sigma is not the play here, Chief. They're going to try and I think they'll stick with it. No, they won't. Milky Man's already changed over. I imagine Brute will as well, so they don't even want to keep the ultimates. Reinhardt Zarya, now the tank lineup for Square One.
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how this is going to work for Square One. But I really do appreciate the switch off, because even if you were going to stick to the Orisa and the Sigma, it's gonna be very difficult to just kind of walk into all of the damage that Odyssey has ready and waiting for you. So Square One is still going with that high pick potential type of composition, but Malthol still once again with these quick picks.
Yeah, Lucamino following it up. There's not really any resistance coming in from Square One right now. They've not found a single pick, and they're just crumbling on every entry into Odyssey. And they've got ults on the board as well. They've got that window. They try and push through onto point. They've got the minefield as well. Pulse Bomb coming online. You already got a Pulse Bomb on the side of Square One as your answer.
It's really good rotation coming through from Odyssey, and they're able to get this aggressive positioning too. With a lot of these high pick heroes, you're just able to go in, get those one clips or those pulse bombs, and just really make something happen before Square One can even walk in.
That's the pick. They need a king. Able to get one. Oh, they lost Malphite as well. They got no damage dealers now. Square One have to capitalize on this one, but they can't walk through the minefield that's been laid out by Rhino. Lucamino's close to going down. He's going to need back attack to help him out. As they rotate round to the point, try and milk out what they can with the ult charge. Great hook, anti-nade as well. It's overkill on rack attack, but it's enough to get the job done. Yeah, Graviton Surge being yeeted onto the back line. This might be the turnaround. Posmo comes in. The damage dealers are back for Odyssey, and they hold on to this point as we enter into 80% territory.
But you could see how that play ended up working out so well for Odyssey to buy them time for those reinforcements. Throw a minefield where Square One really wants to approach from, and then it forces them to have to take their sweet time to go around the corner where Odyssey's able to get reinforcements back. So look at this aggressive positioning once again, playing spades here for Odyssey and really being able to get them. They can't even touch! Trade! It's just over.
Well, Square One unable to close out the map. They just forced out all the time by Odyssey, and Sanctum really exemplified a big difference between these teams right there on that final map, because Odyssey had complete and utter control of Sanctum, and maybe that's what happens when you take this Fire of Mercy away from Square One, as I alluded to briefly in the map rotation.
Yeah, so what I think we'll see moving forward is if Square One wants to stick to this Pharaoh Mercy combination, then they'll probably choose an escort map coming up next that's going to lend itself really well to the Pharaoh Mercy combo. So, I'm looking at things maybe like a Rialto coming through just to be able to play that Pharaoh Mercy or something like that will maybe, see a little bit of spice up in there. But who knows?
Yeah, we'll have to find out. So, Odyssey, the second place finishers on our contenders bracket for the most recent month, they are going to be on a roll right now. They've taken down Square One in this first map, but there's still plenty more to come. Give a quick shout out to Frontier Communications for supporting this tournament. You can go to their website to find out more information about the coverage in your area. We're going to go to a quick break. When you come back, map number 2 coming into streams.
Speed Freaks devour speed. Yummy, yummy speed. Speed Freaks have gig service internet for just $74.99 a month plus taxes and fees. Let us guide the Speed Freak in you.
Everybody had a notion across the USA, and everybody be surfing like California, yeah. You'd see him wearing the baggies, Huarache sandals too, a bushy blonde hairdo, surfing USA. Everybody's gone surfing, surfing USA.
Overwatch is different now that the meta is changing every week. We need a few ground rules in order to survive. Rule number 5 is, always take time to reset your mental. That time in between leaving spawn and arriving to the next fight is your chance to take a deep breath. Getting tilted in teamfight after teamfight could cost you the game.
Continually losing that Widow duel? Did you mute your team to avoid the cries asking you to swap? Maybe you're just feeding. Swap to another character. Now the enemy team is feeding you.
The Odyssey is typically associated with a long journey of discovery, but Rose, looking at Sanctum on the pile, I don't think we're going to see much length to this story. Looking increasingly dominant for this Odyssey roster when they're facing up against Square One in our first semi-final of the night.
Wouldn't that be kind of a great boon to both teams, not having to play the assault map that comes in fourth? It might be kind of nice to be able to get a chance to do that.
Hey, don't steal my thing that could potentially get me in trouble with Blizzard by slapping their map types around. No, don't do that. Only one of us should get the fine, not both of us. But yeah, you're right. We will have to go to map 4 to see an assault map type. Our next stop will be an escort type. And Rose, we already spoke a little bit about how that decision, which has to be made by Square One, could be influenced by the preference they're showing towards Pharah Mercy.
It could be, but we actually found out exactly what that map is going to be, and it's Junkertown. And Junkertown's not usually a map that you see too much Pharah because of the Widowmakers that can run dominant or the double sniper compositions that you can see come through. But if both teams want to run a Roadhog, then, well, Junkertown just might be the map for you.
Home soil, maybe? That's why they're potentially running it. Nothing to do with the recent balance change, which made him a damage dealer instead of a tank? No?
No. Just home turf.
No, Nopa's. Nopa's just home turf. Right, so let's talk a little bit about what we expect to see then. So, coming round into it, Milky Man seems to be picking up the Roadhog duties when it comes round to Square One. Still getting bullied as much as he's playing on main tank, as we noted on Nepal, but you kind of have to pay a lot of attention to the Roadhog here, and that's exactly what both supporters have been doing. The anti-nades have been pretty good at stopping the aggression and the flank paths that are taken by this newly empowered Roadhog.
Well, also, when you take a look at how Milky Man and Rhino have actually been able to kind of play through these tanks as well, they've been kind of keeping each other in check with the Roadhog too. Those hooks can stop a lot of those key cooldowns from actually getting a chance to come to fruition. And when we were seeing this from Rhino on Shrine, Rhino was going for a take a breather and actually couldn't be able to complete the animation for it because he got hooked. He got hooked out of it. So you got to be really careful about all of the CC effects that can come through, because it could just put you in between a bad place and a Roadhog.
Roadhog in a bad place, as we've been saying. But just need to let you know, overlay needs to be switched around. Odyssey is on the red side right now, and they are attacking first. And we're looking for Rhino's Roadhog to get some value here. Instead of flanking, he's going down main. Right clicks as expected onto King. Looking for a hook opportunity as he dips into cover. Won't be able to find it. Taking a lot of damage. Oh god, he needed that healing badly.
Yeah, that healing's could be able to come through here, but Square One's continuing to move this car forward. Dove has to be very, very careful though. Uses the recall really early in order to try to get out of the line of fire.
Now they move back round to the point. Shields from the Sigma is going to block out the hooks, but they're able to get one through onto Milky Man. Speed picking up the kill onto Rack Attack. So no more anti-nades. This should enable Brute to be that much more potent. They're busy dealing with Dove's dive on the back line right now. A lot of attention being paid. Finally, Speed will take him down, but it's actually Lucamino from afar that will find Exo Wrath. The respawn advantage would be in effect if Angelic didn't come in with the heal and the resurrect there.
Yeah, absolutely. The respawns are just a little bit closer here for the attacking team, but you got to be really careful about this defensive hold that Square One is taking, because they are able to pepper in so much damage and watch every single flank as the attacking team of Odyssey decides to move in. And that can be detrimental, especially when you're not really running too much shielding. Yes, you do have the Sigma, but ooh, that's not going to be enough. That experimental barrier not going to stop that hook.
King takes out Lucamino and they're going to trade in kind by finding Exo Wrath. We're looking for another kill to tip the balance, but that's the flux committed by Milky Man as they're looking to take out the Ash. It's Vulcan to finish that one off, but Dove is doing a lot of work to make this happen until he's shut down by Milky Man. To Square One, going to be forced away here. Great accretion for Malfell to finish off with the Ash. They're on the final stretch of point A.
Yeah, and now the final stretch of point A seems to be something that Odyssey has in their sights, as we might see a recontest come through. They're thinking about it, but the sleep is there for Brute.
The sleep follow up with an anti-nade. Flux only going to find one. The contest didn't come through, so point A going to go the way of Odyssey, but there's a lot of kills coming in for Square One. Just think, Rose, if they actually maintained contact with the payload, then they could have contested and burnt more of this time back. Instead, we're moving in with 4 minutes onto point B.
And point B, though, we've seen some teams get a little bit stuck on this the second point, so we'll see whether or not this ends up being a little bit of a trap that these teams fall into. But yeah, for some reason, I don't know what it was with the double shield meta. We just didn't see a whole lot of completion of the second point, but we'll see whether that changes now, as that's not the meta we're in anymore.
Not at all, and a lot of ultimates being committed into this first engagement. Bob and the whole hog, the pulse bomb being thrown out, I'm fairly certain, as well as the nano boost. There was a lot being entered into that engagement, and the payload is just gracefully slid underneath all of it. There's that hook onto Brute. He needs to get away. He's got to take a breather off cooldown, but doesn't have any cover to hide around, and he was just getting demolished. 3 minutes 15 left, and they are so close to moving into this final section.
Yeah, the final section's going to be able to, with a little time, might I add, if they're going to be able to complete the second section in this next engagement. But Square One's going to be trying their way to come back here. King is the only one that's even close to having anything online, and Vulcan takes them out.
They also didn't touch. Milky Man played sweeper on Lucamino and ignored the payload, so once again, winning fight potential from Square One, but they're not paying the payload enough attention to actually do anything with it.
Oh, unfortunately, they've been really focused on the distractions and the kind of one-on-one engagements that have been happening because of the way that Odyssey has been able to kind of fire away. I like how Rhino is also just accepting that they're going to have to take a bit of damage here and just help to be able to get those healer ultimates back online.
They're trying to pause, actually. I think there's been a disconnect, and it would make sense because of the sudden, as expected. So yeah, typically as a wrecking ball, it's counterintuitive to sit still in a corner. So it makes sense that it was a disconnect coming in there for Rhino, who was taking up those responsibilities, hoping to get him back into the game as soon as possible. As you've seen, the teams have called through a pause, and I wasn't certain, actually, Rose, did you catch his ult charge before the disconnect came through? How costly is this going to be?
That's going to be costly for Rhino. I'm pretty sure that the ultimate was there, or at least very close to being there. And it's so unfortunate when you do have disconnects come through like that because you lose all the ultimate charge. Oh no.
Well, they have bigger well, I was going to say, that might actually be more beneficial towards Square One, who are having problems of their own. I keep highlighting this point that they're winning fights, but as you put it, Rose, being distracted by these fights and these skirmishes off the payload. And oftentimes when it looks like they can swing the fight in their favor, they are just ignoring the objective and ending up losing progress in the map every time they do it.
It's really hard because the way that we're seeing Odyssey actually play around the architecture of the map, it's kind of off the payload. So where are you really supposed to be able to take those winning fights? It's going to have to be off the payload and making sure that you're actually taking those fights and engagements where you can. But take a look at this from King, really trying to find their way into the back so they can get this pulse bomb off, but Maltho.
It's found to Angelic and Speed. That damage boosting duo has just been sent to the graveyard. Pulse Bomb comes in, so find some respite by getting Vulcan. They're going to lose Exoraph as well. The res comes in to fix that mistake. They're now on the home stretch with 3 minutes remaining. Spawn advantage going to be heavily in favor of Square One in this final section, so it has to be a decisive fight win from Odyssey. A Flux, a Pulse Bomb with no Immortality Field, that could be the game changer right there.
Really could be, but the bomb's gonna get thrown in by Speed super early, and we'll see if that's gonna be enough, as now we see the Gravitic Flux come through. We'll see if what comes through from here. Odyssey has been able to work their way through super well through this point, but the sleep comes around to Rhino, so Rhino's not going to be able to stay alive too much. Gets the chance to take the breather, but Exoraph now gets taken out. So we are towards the end of the map.
The whole hole's there. It's going to clear it all out. And no one was able to touch. 2 minutes 20 as well for Odyssey. Oh no, you hate to see it if you're a Square One fan.
Yeah, 2 minutes 20 is a lot of time left on the clock, and now the sides are reversed. So Odyssey's going to get a chance to just try to keep Square One at bay. And unfortunately, like, let's go back to what we were talking about before during the pause. Square One winning a lot of those fights or those key moments, but unfortunately just like maybe not paying attention to the cart where they needed to. So yeah, it's just a little bit unfortunate there that Square One has been winning out these engagements, but maybe on their attack run, they'll be able to show us a bit more about how those winning fights can really matter by pushing this card.
Yeah, let's hopefully get some progress in there as they will look to go on the offense now and pay a little bit more attention, like we said, hopefully towards that. Odyssey, on their defense, they are not making many changes, but they are bringing Lucamino onto the Baptiste instead of the Zenyatta who's rolling around on the previous attempt.
I really like that. I think that's something that could really lend itself well to is the Immortality Field is still something that is a very heavy hitting resource, and if you want to be able to stop some of these halt hooks coming through or just being able to stop some of those one clips, I think that the Immortality Field is just an expendable resource to be able to help you through some of those key moments. So really looking at Lucamino at the moment to be able to use those Immortality Fields to their advantage as Square One again, trying this Orisa Sigma.
Okay, this will be a true litmus test of how, how far back the main tanks are being held. Doesn't even matter about the tanks though. Speed can just do that! Malfell and Lucamino gone. Take the long way back to the payload from your spawn room. Finding the angle, wants another attempt. Great sleep to shut him down, but they're not going to be able to kill him. He's getting the pocket coming in. Rock Oh, and they got it, actually, because of the Bio Nade coming in from Rack Attack, forcing out the resurrection from Angelic. Now Rhino's on an angle, wants to find this hook. Shield keeps blocking it out. They're paying him so much presence of mind. It's hard to find that value. The sleep is there as well. Dove waiting to reinforce him as they try and aggress, but they're playing around the payload. They are not leaving it this time, Rose. They learnt their mistake from point A.
Yeah, especially when you're going to be playing with the Orisa and the Sigma as well. It really lends itself well to just playing around the objective, especially when that's going to be a movable payload. So, oh man, but Speedy is just on a rampage.
Oh, lads, you're just dealing too much damage right now. Rhino feels the hurt. He's looking to find another one. Lucamino goes down. The shield comes out too late to save him. Now he's on the high ground. Sleep once again. Great answer from Rack Attack to shut him down. But while this is going on, you've not finished him off. Nano Boost, they're putting everything into Spee. And he wants to try and pay them dividends right now, but he's hacked out. There's going to be the Malfell Sombra to pay more attention to the backline. They've not got rid of this Odyssey hold just yet. The Flux will catch Angelic, play him off, so no more pocket. Can Speed do it when he switches to manual? He's hoping to get it without the use of the reinforcements. Finding his time, another headshot onto Lucamino. No one's been able to shut this madman down. Ash just tearing this entire Odyssey lineup apart, and they finally do enough to get it over to point A. What a performance from Speed.
Spee's Ash has always been something that's been such a highlight for me, especially watching them play in contenders matches. You just see so much of the Dynamite being such an influential part of this team's success. Like, I gotta watch this one more time, because take a look at how highlighted Vulcan was with that Dynamite coverage, and then the headshots coming through. Let's watch the coach gun to be able to get Rhino away from this objective, and then just in case, that Dynamite was hit, in case you missed it.
That's smart from Rhino, by the way. Can't be headshot if you don't show your head. That's why he's stuck in ball form the entire time. Another disconnect coming through, unfortunately. A member of Odyssey has dropped out, so we're going to take a quick pause while we try and collect ourselves. Let's take stock of the ultimates on the board right now. Basically none. We're going to have Bob and Flux online for square one when Brute comes back from the spawn room. Pulse Bomb just being used by Dove to make that happen. And we're in a good spot right now. Let's take a look at a replay again. It's earlier Spee highlights. That's what I want to see. Okay, Malfo had no idea about that angle. He had no chance of dealing with that. Up and over. Ring-a-ding-ding. He's going to take out another one as well. So great play by Spee, as we've already highlighted.
Yeah, Spee is just such a phenomenal player, and especially when we're taking a look at how the double shield worked and how Ash can just throw those dynamites over the top to be able to chunk down a lot of that extra health and extra shield that those tanks are going to have. And then you have the follow-up from the Genji that comes through. It's just really, really well done, and Spee is definitely a player that understands how to use this Ash for even just some of these pocket picks coming through from square one, where you have the follow-up from King this time on the Tracer that can really help to secure these kills.
Okay, Milky Man gets rocked out to take a breather, but he's already sitting at full HP, so don't need to worry about that one. Walks forward behind the shield. Nothing left for him, so he's just going to have to use the grasp instead to soak up a lot of damage. Meanwhile, Rhino's just been rolling around behind them, dealing so much damage and paying a lot of CC to get them to give him attention. Dove will take out King. And there's that minefield on the point as well. So this is where Odyssey really want to burn the time bank of square one and get them away from this payload. Milky Man can't quite get his target behind that shield. So he will be able to block out a lot of this damage as they look to get back on top of this objective.
Yeah, and there's just going to be some staggers out as well. And Malfo does get taken down by Spee. And once again, Spee just has so many people's numbers. And that might have been enough to flip the script.
Oh, absolutely. By finding a kill with the Bob and the Pulse Bob, Milky Man and the rest of this lineup will push this towards point B. They've still got a bit of time bank with them, but there's plenty of time to burn if you are Odyssey.
Yeah, that's going to be quite a bit of a time bank left for square one, especially if you're going to be rolling into that third point. There's been so much momentum, so much wind in the sails for square one that this card has just continued to move forward. And even though Rhino's been able to roll around, that's just really causing more of a distraction than anything.
That's a way to get them away from the payload, just using the whole hog to yeet that ball across the map. Milky Man's still alive on point, but he's got a biotic grenade shutting him down. He's caught in the flux as well to take a breather. Not going to be online for him. He should go down to the damage, and that's exactly what happens as Dove will move around onto the high ground to shut down the angles, try and weave behind the barrier. Vulcan finding King as well. And now Dove's here to cut off the retreats, try and burn through and these time and stop a coordinated offense coming in. They're going to dive into that one. Malphel back on his Doomfist to disrupt this entire unit that's forward operating. And Dove's there with the cleanup he was looking for. That's going to really set Square One back as Odyssey will look to set up on point B again.
You know, something that's been really fun to watch is just this high-level Tracer play. Recognizing that there's a bunch of mobility that can come through from that hero, as well as just like the high skill ceiling that you really have. It's been such a pleasure watching these Tracers go at it with each other, because like Dove, King, both of them have been able to run circles around the enemy team, and just recognizing the rollouts that you can use for that hero has been so critical for the success that each of these Tracers has seen.
Very risky for Malphel to go in, even after having Dynamite, but he gets the nano boost, lands on top. Great shield placement will block out the damage as he's looking to line something else up. Gets back into the fight. Pulse Bomb finds Lucamino, jumps across to the side, but Speed will eventually take him down and end his reign of terror as Dove moves on to King now. He's still up on the board. He's got his Pulse Bomb coming online, and he's got a great position to throw it into Square One. 60 seconds remaining. This fight could be the one for Square One if they can keep up the pressure. There's going to be the Graviton, the Flux coming out. King finding two more. Can't find Dove though, will shut him down, but Dove's now a solo operator on this point. He needs the reinforcements to come in. Malphel will be here with the Doomfist. Milky Man pressed up against the side, will shut him down. There's the pile driver to lock him up into the sky. Will get hooked out, but the kill doesn't come in. Milky Man might have to use the whole hog to get him off the point again. Obviously, just wants to get rid of the Wrecking Ball, and there we go. Point B will be secured for Odyssey, but they're only going to have 1 minute 50, which is less time bank than Odyssey when they move on to this final section.
Yeah, and that's like, I gotta commend Odyssey for how much time they were able to eat off of the clock for that second section, because that's no easy feat, especially when you take a look at the historical success of a lot of teams going through the attack phase on that second point. It's just kind of like an inevitable in a lot of cases. So really great job by Odyssey to be able to eat off some of that time, but Speed's still, Reign of Terror commences and continues through this third point.
Yeah, Vulcan was able to get the Flux off, but he paid with his life. When you're floating around like that in the air and Speed's got his sights trained on you, you're not going to last very long. Now they boosted Malphel, goes in again, and that's the deletion we wanted on Speed. As we're going to send Dove in onto the back line as well. There follows up with the Meteor Strike on the Exo Wrath. One more support to find it at them, but Brute's going to be taken up with the Pulse Bomb. Milky Man needs some support. He won't find it. This damage lineup from Odyssey is running riot on the back line of Square One, and they're not able to keep the rest of their team alive. 45 seconds remaining. Final fight for Square One.
It is the final fight, and even though Odyssey doesn't have too many resources, Rhino's Wrecking Ball mines might just be enough to just crowd control away some of the mobility that Square One wants to be able to have in the backline. I'm looking at King right now to get a massive Pulse Bomb and continue this cart's movement forward.
Okay, can't get the Pulse Bomb off, so he's had to panic throw it because he's about to get deleted by Malphel, who's caught up in that Flux. Will go down, so he does find some kind of value. It's going to be rough. They have to go through the mines. Brute finding a follow-up kill onto Rhino. It's going to make it a lot harder for Odyssey to maintain this position. I think they're going to stay on cart and try and burn much time. They've got the distance to die here and have another recontest. So why not try and get a few ultimates out of Odyssey before, a few ultimates out of Square One before you go to the final fight.
Absolutely, and now the respawn advantage is heavily in Odyssey's favor, so all they can do right here is just regroup and come back in. Dove has the Pulse Bomb available, as well as this Nano Boost coming in from Lucamino.
It's going to be given over. Pulse Bomb not finding any kills, they're being rocked away. Brute is the recipient of that Nano Boost. I think they want that Flux online. Milky Man using the whole hog. He's found Radic Attack on the back line. The rest of his team still being eroded right now. Milky Man staying alive. He's trying to protect Speed on this payload with his two tanks as they're going to burn through Rhino on this offensive once more. The respawns are going to come in. We've already said it, Rose. They got the advantage and... Wait, what?
What?
How did that happen? I don't understand. What? There was a Sigma on point. How did he get away? Interesting. Let's go. Like, so that's an unfortunate C9 coming in from Square One because they definitely weren't losing at that point. Standout performances from Speed, but Odyssey and I guess the Rhino Wrecking Ball was the thing that sealed the deal there. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I'm kind of speechless of that one. That's now match point for Odyssey when we move on to our third map.
Yeah, and that next map is going to be a hybrid choice, which is again going to be a choice that we're going to have to see. Yeah, we're just gonna have to see Square One make, and it's gonna be really tough. Maybe go back to the basics with that Pharah Mercy combination. But yeah, I think that is something that's going to really help Spee shine on this Ash.
Yeah, Fire Mercy might be working out better for them. I think that relying on the Orisa Sigma wasn't the play. You see them switch off of it a lot after rolling out with it.
Mhm.
So I think Square One needs to put that in the closed book that was the previous meta, the previous patch, and look towards the future. They are getting some good value with the Reinhardt, not with the Reinhardt, with the Roadhog and the Sigma. So probably roll out more with that and see if you can get some more value from it.
Yeah, I think the Roadhog and the Sigma for sure is definitely a combination of tanks that you want to be able to see together. We saw a lot of Roadhog and Zarya as well. As we mentioned, that's something that's been kind of infiltrating the higher ranks of Q. It was a surprise to be able to actually see that as a part of a tournament play. But nonetheless, it kind of makes a lot of sense as to why that combination of tanks is getting run. It's high damage output, it's high pick potential, and you love to see it, especially with it's going to be with the Roadhog and the Sigma too. Both of those combinations really effective.
Okay, let's see if Square One can mix it up. They are now at the end of their tournament life. If they lose this next map, they will be going home and they miss out on a chance at the finals. Odyssey, they have one more map to win before they go through to the grand finals of the Valiant Feed Fest, presented by FiOS from Frontier. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to bring you that third map.
Speed freaks do everything. All at once, whenever they want. Speed freaks have gig service internet for just $74.99 a month plus taxes and fees. Let us guide the speed freak in you.
Overwatch is different now that the meta's changing every week. We need a few ground rules in order to survive. Rule number 1 is, always be ready to hit that emote key. Did you just nail the perfect shot? Take a moment. Rub it in the other team's face. Everyone needs a moment to shine. Which brings me to rule number 2. Don't glow for too long or you'll get what's coming. Be safe out there.
Maybe this time charging into the team fight will work. Oh, you should have stuck with your team. It worked last time. But don't worry, the enemy team says thanks. Feed Fest. If there's a place to try that trick play, it's here. Register and tune in for the best that Tier 2 Overwatch has to offer.
Overwatch is different now that the meta is changing every week. We need a few ground rules in order to survive. Rule number 3 is click heads. The quickest way to kill is a headshot. Move your mouse over to where the head is going and click it. Click it good. Headshots cause maximum damage and are more likely to turn the tide of your game. Boom. Easy as that. Click heads, that's how you win.
Welcome back to the Valiant Feed Fest presented by FiOS from Frontier. We're going to go ahead and jump into our next match, or next map up, actually. It's getting a little bit late here in the great UK, so sorry about that. But it's Odyssey who lead the series 2-0 against their opponents, and we will be looking for them to close out the series. But they are trying, Rose. It's just a very unfortunate conclusion to Junkertown involving a potential Sig-9.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there, but taking a look at how Square One was able to approach that last map, they definitely looked a lot better. And again, they're just kind of like continuing to get better and better throughout every single map of the series. But they have selected to go to King's Row, which doesn't really seem like a huge surprise to me, given that you do have the entire map pool at your disposal. And if we're going to a hybrid map, then you may as well go on to something that's going to be a bit familiar. So King's Row definitely going to be one for the ages, as we're going to see that as our second hybrid choice of the evening, and our second, just more King's Row, please.
More King's Row is what we're beginning. Don't worry about that one. King's Row after King's Row after King's Row. It is a player favorite, so it doesn't surprise me. It keeps getting picked when they're given the choice, and we have that open map pool for these players to choose from. So we saw an interesting strategy in our previous quarterfinal where they ran pseudo goats effectively, and they just rotated all the way around the point and cleared off the high ground. I don't think we'll see that happen in this matchup. I feel like that's quite a rare occurrence. I think we'll see a lot of the diversion back to things like Reinhardt Winston and Roadhog Zarya, that kind of thing that's coming out from both the main tanks. So I feel like that's the biggest part of disarray right now. The part that's hardest to lock down is what the tanks are going to do.
Yeah, it seems like it's very easy to figure out what the supports are going to do, what the DPS are going to do, but it's like, what are you going to do with your tank lineup? That's been the biggest question about this patch, because you just don't really have access to what you wanted to run. You could even see that Square One in maps prior was going for the Orisa and the Sigma and had to recognize that they needed to switch off, but take a look at this Bastion strategy.
What are they doing? They're on top of Mondata, raining bullets down on top of Milky Man. Absolutely bullied. And Square One don't have an answer for this. He's still up there, Rose. No one can touch him. And they cannot step onto the point to contest.
Oh my goodness. I mean, usually what happens with this strategy is you've got the experimental barrier from a Sigma to be able to help keep this Bastion afloat, but you don't really need that if you're just going to have the statue.
That's the response as expected. The trash can has finally been dealt with. A nice sleep dart from Exoraph, follow up with some damage from Speed. That should shut down. Odyssey didn't quite capitalize on that as much as they planned. Now Malphil will go over to something more familiar on the Doomfist after that initial cheese.
Yeah, and then you also have Lucamino going back over to the Baptiste, which has been a crowd favorite for the team of Odyssey. So I think it's definitely taking a look at that. But you also got to pay attention to this Reinhardt here from Milky Man on Square One.
Completely shut down. 2 ultimates traded for 1 because it just took a whole Hulk to keep him at bay. The Square One are not letting Odyssey get control of this point, and they're trying to come back and contest. They have given up 61%, but it's only the 33 that they need to worry about. Great stun comes in, Milky Man taken up by Malphil. Coach Gun up in the air for King to finish off. That's going to be a full reset coming in for Odyssey.
A full reset, but look at this. Lucamino actually gets a chance to take out King before they end up getting stuck behind the point. We see a bit of a back off here from Square One as they do try to regroup before coming back in, and Dove is ready.
Okay, here we go. Dove lining up some shots. He wants to go clicky clicky. He's gonna find Speed. One more for us. One more for the stream. Please, sir, I beg you with the headshots. Got one more for us? He's got one more for us! King taken out by Dove. And that's gonna be point A. Odyssey now moving on to the escort section of this map.
Hey, taking a page out of rule number 3 for the LA Valiant. If you want to win the game of Overwatch, just gotta click some heads. And that's something that Dove was able to do in that last team fight. And that's been really, really fun to watch. But now you've got to find more value coming in from these picks. As Rhino just takes a little bit of a breather.
No, but look where he is though, Rose. They're not gonna know. Square One are not gonna know he's here. And he's waiting, and he's using the emote to third-person peek around the corner, so he knows what's going to happen. He's setting up for something big right now.
Waiting for that hook to come through.
Oh, the barriers are there, but they used the barrier too early on Odyssey, so they couldn't get away from the Bionade. Graviton Surge thrown into the mix as well to stop that aggression. They got the Immortality Field to deal with one that's being thrown out for counter. Rally been popped by Angelic as well. I do not see Odyssey winning this. And when Milky Man drops the huge hammer, you'd be hard-pressed to disagree.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree with that one. Milky Man hit a pretty big Earth Shatter, and with no shield, it's gonna be super, super easy for Milky Man to be able to hit those shatters. Let's see that again, shall we? You got the lamp thrown over the top to be able to keep everyone alive, but once that was gone, everyone was purple, everyone was down. Everybody hit the floor with that Earth Shatter.
Like I said, there's no shields. Who's stopping this out right now? You can only rely on Vulcan to body block it when he's got the protective barrier up. They're trading back and forth, 2 for 1 so far in favor of Odyssey as Malphil finds the second kill of this engagement. That's a good balance for Odyssey to have as they move on to the final sections of the Streets phase. There could be actually one more recontest, but there's a long distance to travel from that spawn room.
Yeah, and I don't know if everybody from Square One's gonna actually be able to get back in time, especially because if you're gonna see Malphil camp here, they might not even let them come through. Wait a minute, they're getting close. There might be a recontest.
Yeah, they're gonna get that recontest on the go. Commit the nano boost very early for this one. They're trying to uppercut someone off this payload. Angelic had to go over to the Lucio to get back to point faster. Speed sitting on this Bob. Doesn't want to have to use it on this fight because there's a long way to go, but he's have to throw it out just to make sure they get it at this point. As Milky Man went down, you have to replace him with another tank somehow. Bob's gonna have to fill that role for the time being. But Dove not finding enough kills right now as Brute will find the second onto Vulcan. I think Square One have done enough to get control of this payload, but they can't lose the next fight, because if they do, then the time gets extended and we move into this final section.
Yeah, but look at the tactical advantage that Square One's gonna have here. They just get a chance to watch every single angle, every single corner. Odyssey's not gonna be able to have any secrets in terms of, or sneakiness in terms of where they come from.
Bionade blocked out. Rhino still found Speed. This is not good. Throws in the shatter to try and stem the aggression, but Malphil's find 2 off the back of that one. The Graviton Surge might not even be enough here, but the kills from the tank line, Brute and Milky Man tried to get something done, but it still does not change the outcome. Odyssey Move on to this final section. Rhino wants to get forward in position. They spotted him out this time. Actually ended up clipping him. He's going to body block the damage. Good guy Rhino keeping his supports alive. Doesn't have a shield, but he'll use his meat to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to be able to get the supports there, key ultimates as well. A good shield block coming in, though, from Milky Man to be able to stop that hook from coming through. But you're in a very dangerous territory. You don't want to be next to this hole with that Roadhog.
Well, they're going to grab and jump onto Milky Man. They want to take him out. That's an easy pickup there. Speed now moving on to the Widowmaker. He wants to click Ed's even harder. Malfoy will be dropped. He can't win this pulse bomb being taken in. Exo-Wrath will be the recipient and will go down to Dove. Home stretch right now, Rose.
Home stretch, and we gotta wait for Square One to come back, and unfortunately they don't really have anything in the tank, and they're also running a Widowmaker, which doesn't really provide too much point presence.
Milky Man got sent off the map. Dove was able to get the damage there. Bionade on top of the Roadhog. It is just not enough. 1 minute 38 on the clock. Odyssey complete King's Row.
They will complete King's Row, and because they have over a minute on the clock, Square One has to end this with time in the bank. They actually have to get all 3 points and have some amount of time in the bank in order to actually get through to rounds 3 and 4. But I have a feeling Odyssey wants to just close it out here. They don't want to give Square One the chance. They don't want to have to take us to an assault map.
I'd agree with that assessment, Rose. It's typically the MO of these teams to close out as fast as they can. And I'm sorry to throw you under the bus like that, but honestly, they have the potential to win this right now. You correctly identified that, yeah, Square One cannot do this in overtime. Otherwise, the best outcome they can hope for is a draw in this series. They don't want that. They've got a long way to go if they're hoping to get a spot in that grand final, because they have to win this map, the next one, and another one on top of that, if they're gonna go ahead and look for the big prize pool here. First hurdle they have to overcome, this point A offense on King's Row.
And this is something that you gotta give a lot of credit to Odyssey for, is that they've been playing this high pick, high damage composition very, very well. And again, that centerpiece has been Malthal's Doomfist. We actually saw that Odyssey performed a lot better on Junkertown when they had Malthal switch over to the Doomfist and really give that a good old try, just because that's one of Malthal's best heroes. And the way that they engage with this Doomfist, you either are getting a quick pick or you're CCing away a really big threat from the team of Square One.
May Reaper coming in with these tank lineup. Angelic's already lost his life. The Meeper, it's not Dr. Bunsen, Dr. Bunsen Honeydew, but Speed's gonna move round to the point on the Reaper, which we haven't seen today, but he's going to make value of it as Milky Man takes out Malfell. Point A, looking thoroughly under the control of Square One for now. We're looking for the recontest to come in from Odyssey.